Hello everybody, welcome into my latest live broadcast. Today it is March the 8th, 2022. It's Tuesday. My name is Kerry Holzman. Welcome in everybody. Sorry there hasn't been a broadcast the past couple of days, but as usual, I find myself spinning plates. So the good news is things are getting done, and speaking of that, we've got the 3-time Purple Heart recipient Marvin's computer all finished up here. I thought I'd give you a look at what it looks like final, just before the panels go on and it gets delivered to the customer. There's been a little bit added to it since the last broadcast. That is, as you can see, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Now, I confused Marvin with somebody else. Marvin needs the Wi-Fi. He doesn't use Bluetooth. I said the opposite, but that's a different customer. And this board does not have built-in Wi-Fi. Also, the board does not have a USB 3.2 internal header that Silverstone provides a Type-C connector up here on this case, which not a lot of cases do. And Silverstone saw the video and said, we've got a solution for that, Kerry. We have these cards you can add into Marvin's computer that will give you that internal USB 3.2, and you can move, 20 gigabits per second through USB 3.2. And to prove it, we'll send you an enclosure, the MS-12. So after you install this and hook up that front USB 3 connector, you can test it and verify you're getting those USB 3.2 speeds. But here's the problem. And well, it was very kind of Silverstone to send these, and they are a great solution if that's a problem you have, where you've got a case that supports USB 3.2, but your motherboard doesn't. Know that these cards exist. They're about 70 bucks a piece. They aren't cheap, but they're good, and they do, they're painless to install. If you look on the board that we used here, we don't have any slots left to plug a card in. Instead, I looked on Amazon to find a USB 3.2 to a USB 2.0 adapter, because the motherboard does have 3 USB 2.0 internal headers. And while he's not going to get USB 3.2 speed, you can plug a USB Type-C connector into that, and it will connect and work at USB 2 speeds. So I went ahead and bought this little $10 adapter and plugged it in, and it's way down in there on the bottom. It's a little circuit board that just plugs into the USB 2 header, and then your Type E connector, I think is what that's called, for the internal USB 3.2 header plugs into that. Now, I don't know if Marvin will have any need for USB Type-C. We really didn't discuss it. And my initial plan was to just leave it disconnected. But when Silverstone offered to, send me these cards, my thought was that'd be ideal. In retrospect, had I known this going into it, and had I had more time, I think a board with built-in Wi-Fi would have been my first choice here instead of what I used. And that board likely would have had an internal 3.2 header, and if it didn't, I would have easily been able to add one of these cards. But those boards cost more, and I didn't see any purpose in spending more money than what was needed, because that's essentially what got Marvin into all this situation to begin with, from my understanding. It's just a lot of overkill and a lot of things he didn't need to have. And it created a lot of problems and a lot of headaches. So this is a much simpler build. You can see cable management was super easy on this, and panel's going to go on nice and smooth. The panels have sound dampening material, so this computer is going to be whisper quiet, except maybe when he's cranking out on his games and making that video card work hard. Not much I can do about it, but it should run nice and cool. There's a lot of room in there. It's easy to work on, easy to upgrade, easy to repair. Marvin gave me a second Samsung N970 EVO Plus 2 terabyte. So if you look very closely, you'll see that down below the video card. And then, of course, the other one up between the heatsink, I think, in the video card. Yeah, if you look closely, you'll see them both. One above the video card, and one below the video card. So you've got a C drive and a D drive. Both are 2 terabytes. Both are Samsung 970 EVO Plus SSDs. Those are good high-performance Gen 3 solid-state drives. The build is an 11700K. It is fast. It's got Windows 10 Pro. All the links to all the parts are in the video notes below the video, and my thanks to the folks over at Silverstone We'll definitely be featuring these cards in a future video where appropriate, and then we'll test it with the enclosure, and I'm sure it's going to run at the 20 megabits speed advertised, as long as we're plugging in something that fast. So I think Marvin's going to be very happy with it. We're going to try and get this to Marvin tomorrow morning, I hope. And I'll be very anxious to hear back from him on what he thinks of it. Now, my thanks to all of you in the community who've been so kind and so supportive in this project. And you know, it's really touching when the community comes together like this, and when we have this sort of ubiquitous support and kindness versus other types of videos I do where there are people who get nasty. No matter what we do, there's going to be nasty people. But in this build series, it's been very minimal. So I thank you for your kindness. And yeah, this one's special. So I really want to do him right. I want him to be happy. And again, the Silverstone case, if you're looking for like the cheapest barrel, bottom of the barrel stuff, you don't want to look at Silverstone, right? Silverstone, they do have some budget cases that are pretty inexpensive, and for a reason, but they also make really good quality stuff. And I'm not being paid by them to say this. This is how I honestly feel as a computer shop owner. I have no hesitation in recommending these add-on cards. They've been making like USB 3 and even other USB add-on cards for years. They've always been good. They've always been reliable. They always work out of the box. They're super easy to install. And all of them that I've installed years ago even still work perfectly today. So there is this level of you get what you pay for. There are cheaper cards that, you know, they require drivers, or they're a little flaky, they disconnect randomly. There are cheaper enclosures that run slower or aren't solid metal, like this is basically a giant heatsink. So it's not like somebody's, you know, the reaction I'm getting from people is this is a nearly $200 case. But if you picked it up and felt the weight of it, you'd understand how much material is being used in this. And there are cases that are made of minimal materials that cost as much or nearly as much. What's coming to mind right now is that horrible Kedires case. That was about the same price as this one. And I'll tell you what, this one is easily worth 3 of those. So when you think of it that way, this is a bargain. But this isn't, when it comes to cases, some people like big flashy cases, lots of RGB, case windows, liquid cooling options. And while this does have liquid cooling options, we're not using them. This is really just a box meant to keep things quiet and cool, easy to work on, and it's going to last decades. You'll be able to upgrade this and upgrade this and upgrade this, and it'll continue to, if they want to, be a home for the computer as you go through new generations of Intel chips, different power supplies. You've got so much room in here. If you wanted to add liquid cooling, you could do it. And you'll notice we don't have 19 fans in this build like they had. We've got 2 fans in the front, 1 fan in the back. You've got a fan on the power supply, a fan on the cooler, and 3 fans on the video card. That's it. There's no fan on the chipset. There's not a bunch of fans at the top or a bunch of fans across the bottom, because those are pointless. They're just adding noise, both visual noise and audio noise. It's all noise pollution. Now, having said that, I want to thank Silverstone for sending this stuff. They did send the case and these parts for free in order to get my honest opinion. And you guys know me. I don't hold back. So bear that in mind when you're shopping for yourself or for others that you care about, if you want to look for something that not everybody has. Silverstone's not as well known in the case space or even in computer parts. And especially if you're looking for little adapters and things like that, specialties to take an old computer and give it modern functionality. Like if you have an older machine that you want to add USB 3.2 to, they have other cards that will give you those ports right at the back. So they have all kinds of accessories like that. And you check them out on Amazon or go to their website and evaluate that for yourself. Of course, like I always encourage my viewers, if you have any experience with anything that I am showing, good or bad, I appreciate your feedback. So other people can see that I'm not a shill and that I'm just telling it as it is. And that doesn't mean that your experience is going to be mine, but I do believe that the majority of people who have used their products will be at the same conclusion I am. And so it was very kind of them to send those, even though I'm sadly not able to use them. Do know that they exist and that they might be a good fit for you and your needs. Does the 2080 Ti card require a SAG support bracket? None of these cards require a SAG support bracket. That's primarily needed in shipping. There's absolutely no reason you can't have a card like this 2080 just hang there. Now, the 30 series cards did require manufacturers to put a support bracket on, but that's because they assume manufacturers are shipping those computers. Having this computer sit in somebody's office or home, the card will naturally sag over time, as would any card of that size and weight, but not to the detriment of affecting its functionality. And furthermore, the amount of time it would take for that to happen, this card would be long obsolete by then. And then my final thought on that would be, if you have a case window where the sag is a aesthetic that you're going for, it's not a practical reason, but rather it doesn't affect performance, reliability, it's just a look, then you have to determine for yourself if the bracket looks worse than the sagging card. As you can see, this card is not sagging, it's completely straight, and it was installed with another 2080 Ti just below it on his previous build and was that way for a year, and neither of those cards had sagged. However, when you're shipping the computer, that's really where your concern is going to be for that. So just to clarify, a lot of people, they get information on the internet and they don't really, I'm getting a lot of people, the most vocal it seems, don't fully comprehend the conditions upon which these things matter. So I hope to teach you critical thinking and understanding that video card sag is primarily a concern for aesthetics or a concern for shipping. It's not a concern. We've never had a video card come in or a computer come in where a sagging video card was a cause of a problem. It's certainly not pleasant to look at, and we've seen a few here, but not to the detriment of the operation of the card. What I've often heard from customers is that the card wasn't sagging when I mailed it to you, and that's because it didn't have any proper support inside the case. And that only really applies to the biggest, heaviest cards. The regular, normal, 6-pound or less card. These cards, I don't know how much they weigh, but they're heavy. I want to say that's probably about 8 pounds. But I don't know specifically what it weighs. I'm gauging how it feels. But there's a certain weight, and I can just tell you from picking it up if it's going to need a support in shipping. And those that need support in shipping, I won't leave it in the computer. I'll take it out of the computer and ship it separately. Find Me in Hawaii contributes $4.99. Thank you for that. Now, let's fire it up and I'll show you what it looks like and how long it takes to boot. In fact, you know what? Before we do that, maybe I should go ahead and put the covers on it where we can hear how quiet it is. I've got the covers right down here. So we can start. I don't know, I don't want to cover this side up just yet. So let's cover up the other side. You'll see there's no interference with the cables. Lots of cable management consideration in the case. Thank you, Silverstone. I've worked with a couple lately a couple of case manufacturers that just didn't seem to think you were going to have to hook up any cables. So then we've got dark RAM with the dark card, the dark cooler, the dark case. It's got a nice theme, even though nobody's going to be looking inside to see it. And then let me grab a video cable, and we'll plug that into our Zotac 2080 Ti. We'll plug power into it. We'll plug the internet into it. And then we'll plug a keyboard and mouse in there. And then we're going to fire this bad boy up. Then I'll get a little Windex and clean it up, put a build date on the side of it with a label maker. And we'll check in with Marvin in a couple weeks and see if he's liking it. So let me switch over to my HDMI input, which is right here. And I'll take my main camera and I'll put myself up in a corner out of the way. All right. And we'll hit the power button and I'll stay real quiet so we can hear it and we can start your timers and see how long this takes to get to the desktop. Boom. We're up. That was it. The thing is fast. And it's quiet. Imagine it's only going to get quieter when I put the other cover on it. You can see we got a little RGB in there. That's coming off that Zotac GPU. And yeah, we're going to cover that right up so he's not going to see it. Although I suspect you'll be able to see it through the holes in the back there, but you know, maybe some reflection off the wall. But there it is. I mean, it's a nice little rocket ship of a build. It's nice and quiet. The USB Type-C 3.2 header up here does work at USB 2 speeds, but at least it works. And you know, my initial plan was to just leave it disconnected. So it's certainly going to be ready for the next upgrade because I'm sure the next motherboard, you know, that's going to be standard equipment. Right now, those USB 3.2 headers are only on mid-range and upper motherboards. So I expect that'll be standard equipment here very soon. And still, brand new cases are shipping today that do not have those Type-C headers on the front case, so or the Type-C connectors on the front case. But that will change in the months and years ahead, where that will start to become standard equipment, and we'll probably see the USB Type-A, the typical USB connectors, being replaced and removed altogether with just Type-C in the future. So we're kind of in a transitionary period right now as we start moving things over to USB Type-C. And that's been going on for about 3 years now, and it's very slow. But that's the machine there. If I tap the power button, this will shut it down. There it is. All the parts for everything in this build are listed in the video notes below the video. And if anybody has any questions for me, I'll be happy to handle them right now. This is going to be a short video today. I've got a lot of work to get caught up on. But I do want to take a minute to address any other technical related questions you have, whether they're related to this build or not. Magnum PC said, I just wanted to say I appreciate watching someone give advice who has so much experience. Thank you, Magnum PC. I appreciate you. Comments like that will turn you blue. Any other questions? You know, you don't need a Threadripper and you don't need a 12-core, 24-thread, 3900X AMD Ryzen processor to have a computer at home. I think, you know, people are buying school buses because they have one kid they want to take to school. It doesn't make any sense to get this. It's like you're buying a bulldozer and you're going to keep it in your garage. It seems very impractical. When does an average, ordinary homeowner need to drive around a bulldozer? So I think, you know, people get caught up in wanting the heavy equipment when really not only is it expensive, and it's expensive to maintain, and it can be expensive to keep it running, it doesn't really benefit you. It actually causes you more headaches and more money. And I've seen a lot of people get caught up in this trap, the more is better trap. And more is better if you have a lot of time to sit there and play with it, to keep it, massaged in running. More is better if you're interested in what other people think and all you care about is having complete strangers or otherwise be impressed with your computer rig. I would suggest they should be impressed with you as a person, but that's just me. Clearly Marvin doesn't care about it. I'm sure he doesn't care about what people think, but I think he did get caught up a bit in the more is better kind of mentality of buying a bulldozer when really what he needed was an SUV. You know what I mean? That's my opinion, and it's very, very common. This is not my first rodeo. I've had to downgrade a lot of customers who bought way too much equipment and then had a hard time maintaining it. And if you look back at some of my videos, one that comes to mind is John Yasuda, and John was a PC tech. And John had an X99 system and an X299 system. When the X99 went down, he replaced the motherboard, and then it went down again. Then he upgraded to an X299. That went down. And when I talked to John and I said, what are you doing with it? Why do you need that kind of, what do you need a bulldozer for? How much earth are you moving? He wasn't moving any earth. So you don't need a bulldozer. So I put him into a high-end i7. And that was what, 2-3 years ago? And not a problem. He had one little problem where he had a BIOS update. And after doing the BIOS update, it started overheating running Prime 95, which it never did before. And I suggested to him he looks into the voltages, that the BIOS update changed the voltages to the CPU and to put them back where they were. Where were they? Who knows, right? I don't know what the settings were. So, but he's a tech or former tech, and he tweaked the voltages until he found that he could lower them where it remained stable and cool, which is more than likely where it was before the BIOS update. But that was the single problem he had, and it's been running fine for him ever since. Carrie Chasen says, I like that computer, Carrie. That's a cool looking PC. Well, it's just going to be a black box, right? When it's all said and done, we're just going to have a plain black box. And there's something very timeless, in my opinion, about having a plain black box as a computer versus, having something flashy in RGB, which speaks very much of the time that we're living in, this time of excess, this time of indulgence, this time of having extra cash. Do you know, as I was writing up the part list for the Big Beast build, do you know nearly $1,000 of that $10,000 build was in the expense of RGB or RGB related controllers, hubs, fans. The fans there's $365 worth of Corsair LL120 fans. They're about $27 a piece, and there were 11 of those, something like that. Certainly at least 10. And then on top of that, you've got the liquid cooler and its RGB fans and the RGB hubs and controllers. About $1,000 I calculate was just for looks. So look, that's somebody's choice if you want to do that. I won't do it again. It was a nightmare to cable manage it. And the maintenance on it with all those cables in the way is going to be more difficult than it really needs to be. But I've seen it over on Doug Bett's live Windows training with Doug Bett's channel, and it looks great in the background. And he seems to be loving it. And it's basically 2 computers in one. And I wanted to do it for the experience. And it is a bulldozer. Believe me, it's basically a bulldozer and an SUV in one. And I hope Doug is able to utilize both the SUV and the bulldozer part, and that it doesn't just kind of sit there idling. Armando Garcia contributes $5 and says, Uncle Kerry, as always, thank you for what you do. I've learned so much from you and only hope to be able to return the favor one day. Well, your kindness is all I ask for, and thank you for being kind and having such nice things to say. Now, I'm going to put this other panel on just so we can close it up and get a final overview. But as I mentioned, there's a timeless look to this. That means this computer could be 10 years old or 20 years old, and you won't really be able to tell from looking at it unless you know what to look for, like the USB Type-C connector up front or the lack of front bays, right? There's no place to put a DVD or CD up here. But that's it. That is it right there. And the reason you can't get any more cards in this is this video card takes up 2 slots. There's a slot here, as you can see, and right here, these 2 slots is where the M.2, the second M.2 sits here. So there's no slots here. And then there is a slot just below the video card right here, but I didn't want to put the card here and potentially block the fans or have this card, you know, it's going to vibrate when the fans kick on. And I don't want it vibrating against another card. It's going to generate noise. But yes, if I was really desperate, I could have squeezed one of those Silverstone add-in cards in there. But then I also have to run the cable, and it's going to block some of the fans. Or at least not block them entirely, but it will block them partially. And I just wasn't comfortable having it crammed in. This is a very large case, and this was not the best motherboard selection for Marvin's needs. But again, I didn't really realize that until after the deed was done. If I would have gotten a board at the very least with built-in Wi-Fi, this wouldn't have been a problem. And likely a board with built-in Wi-Fi likely would have had the USB 3.2 header on it anyway, and neither would have become an issue. But again, Marvin hasn't mentioned any need for it. I'm not too concerned about it. And if it does become a problem, we'll address it. No problems. I was hopeful that there was a Type-C back here, but there is not. So this is a good, you know, basic motherboard, the B560 HD3. We've got an 11700K in there with like 64 gigs of RAM. He's got two 2 terabyte Samsung NVMe's in there. And it's a rocket, as you can see, and it's nice and quiet. And it will be, most importantly, very, very reliable. And that's my most important consideration, is that I'm building a machine that's fast, I'm building a machine that's not noisy, and I'm building a machine that's going to run for years with very little maintenance. And if any repair, maintenance, or upgrade is required or wanted, easy to work on. Chris Jones with a 20-pound contribution says, good evening, Kerry from the UK. Thanks for pointing me to Doug's video on upgrading from home to pro, and that worked like a charm. Awesome, Chris. Thanks for following up, and I'm glad that Doug's video helped you. I think that, you know, having us, like Doug and I, working together, then I don't have to make the same videos Doug is making. It means more content, more variety for our viewers. And, you know, it's great to have another content creator making quality content that I can recommend. Not just hobbyists and enthusiasts who don't really understand seemingly they don't seem to understand consequences and liabilities that real working techs have to deal with, the pressure of that. And it very much changes the way you look at things. It certainly did for me, when you're being held accountable to it for somebody else. When you're making a YouTube video, you can pretty much do whatever you want. There's no liability. If I recommend, you know, something irresponsible or expensive and pointless, and you go out and buy it, you can kick yourself when you have buyer's remorse. But there's no sort of consequence for me what you decide to do. But if you hire me professionally to take on a job for you, and I do that job poorly, or I cause damages in doing the job or losses, then you can hold me financially accountable for all of your losses. So as a result, the advice I give is coming from a business perspective, which is very, very different from, hey, I wonder what would happen if I did this. I can't do that with the client's stuff unless I'm willing to accept that liability. And I think that's the part that drives me crazy, is I see all these enthusiasts and hobbyists that don't so much as mention the fact that they have no liability, to say, hey, I'm making this video for entertainment purposes. This may not be practical. This may not be a smart thing to do. And if you choose to do it, I mean, I would just love to see that disclaimer. And the fact that it doesn't exist means viewers can't tell the difference unless somebody tells them. And that's what I'm trying to do. Just try to get it through. Know when you're watching enthusiast content. Nothing wrong with it. Just know the difference and understand liability and accountability and consequences. Now, Paul Garrett wants to know if I have anything in the works. Lots of things are in the works, Paul, but I have to do one thing at a time. So I am my only employee, and I'm trying to get through a backlog of work here that once I'm through the next two computers, which is Jeff and Edgar, they're 95% done. I'm going to get those shipped out, both of those, this week. Then we also have to get back to the veteran giveaway computers. And then I have some products to review and evaluate and maybe give away as well. So we'll see how that comes along. Luke Taylor wants to know what I think of the 11700K. I like it. Now for me personally, I have an 11900K. I built one for Marty and I liked it so much. I was so impressed with it. I wanted one for myself. And Mitch liked it so much, he wanted one. But the 11700K is the first time I've used that. Prior to that, I really think the 11600K is the best bang for the buck. You know, if you're somebody who just wants the fastest, I can't really recommend anything to you because that's just not the kind of work I typically get. I usually have somebody say to me, Kerry, I need a computer to do this task and that task. Whatever those tasks may be or however many there might be, and this is how much money I've got to spend, and we're going to plan on having the computer 5, 6, 7 years, whatever those answers are. I'm just randomly giving you examples of what's most common. And then what I do is I make recommendations to the customer on how to best accomplish that task with something that's fast, reliable, easily upgradable, and fits within their budget. All too often, we get a lot of viewers who just want to know what's fastest. But the problem is, in my experience, those viewers who are asking aren't the fastest viewers. So I don't understand why some of the slowest people want some of the fastest equipment. My first reaction is, what do you need that bulldozer for? Are you moving earth? So in most cases, the answers I get do not justify the need from that equipment. It's just an emotional want, not an actual practical, pragmatic need. And my business can't sustain on just emotional needs because, it's not often people come into enough money to satisfy that desire. They'll do it once, and then you won't hear from them again for years. So I try to take the approach of, if you were my mother, if you were my brother, would I advise you to spend 2 to 3 times what you need to for a machine that you're going to use for browsing the web and answering emails? I wouldn't do that to a family member. I wouldn't do that to a friend. I wouldn't do it to any of you. So when you guys ask me, not that this question was that at all, but when you ask me, what do I think of any part? The parts are all designed to meet the needs of individuals, not to meet the needs of everybody. So every part has a place. And whether or not it meets your individual needs is not my concern unless you are my customer. So as for the 11700K, the 11600K, the 11900K, I like all those chips. So, but I also like the 10th gen. I also like the 9th gen. I like the 8th gen before it. The 12th gen, they're okay. I like them. I think that they're going to be more valuable or more useful in the future. Right now, they're good chips, but having a better piano doesn't make you a better piano player, and having a better computer doesn't make you a better gamer if that's what you want it for. But if you're running Maya, or if you're running, really hard, CPU intensive, RAM intensive, IO intensive applications, if you're in, the corporate world and you need a machine for production, well, then that's a different discussion depending on the kind of production you're doing. So there is no one size fits all. There are processors for everybody at every price range and every need. And to each one of those people with those budgets and those needs, each processor is recommended. There are no bad CPUs. Now, you could say, well, there were a series of CPUs that didn't perform as well as they do now. Okay. Or you could say, ironically, AMD's Bulldozer series of chips weren't as good as what Intel had. Okay, but it didn't mean they were bad chips. It didn't mean that they would fail you with reliability, or that they wouldn't accomplish the task you had set. So we're talking about individual value systems, and we all value things differently. Hence the expression, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And as long as that expression remains usable and identifiable in society, that means that something you sneer your nose at, somebody else will think you're an elitist snob and there's nothing wrong with it. And neither one of you are wrong. Just the right size glove, all right? They make lots of different kinds of gloves. They're not necessarily designed for everybody. It's kind of like fashion. What you think is fashionable, I might think you couldn't pay me to wear. So, to each his or her own. And ideally, I hope that we have respect for the needs and budget of others. And that just because it doesn't meet your expectations, unless it's your build, why would you think it should? That seems weird to me. But I see that a lot online, and that's why I bring it up. I just bring it up because I hope that by mentioning it, I can sort of stave off some of those comments. They'll still come no matter what, but I'm hoping I can reduce them by, if you're thinking about typing something like that, really think about what I said. Now, if I'm building a computer for you, then I'm very concerned about what you think, if it's going to meet your needs. But if it's not being built for you, then you're lacking any sort of respect or consideration by opining what your thoughts are when you don't really understand why it was designed that way. And that I find offensive, because it's as though no one in the world exists but you, and that you have to give a thumbs up or thumbs down, like you're in the gladiator arena. And I stop and wonder, do these people realize that we don't know who they are and their opinions in the build are irrelevant because they don't understand the needs of the client? And I hope that those of you watching, not only my channel, but other channels, and that you read those comments, will think about what I've said. Light Computers, the company that built the machine for Marvin, sold the machine to Marvin, oversold, in my opinion, the hardware that they sold Marvin, left a message that said, we'd like to make this right. And I said, let's talk about this in email. So they sent me an email. They said, we'd like to make this right. And I said, well, I don't know what you can do to make it right. The case you guys used was way too small. It was also a very inexpensive budget case that I ended up having to throw into the recycle bin. I said the 2 video cards in SLI should never have been sold to him, and the AMD 12-core 24-thread processor should never have been sold to him. So we've started over with nearly everything except 1 video card and 1 power supply, the power supply that was in it. So I don't know what's left for you guys to do. What would you do to make it right now? He tried reaching you for a year, before he gave up and reached out to me. So what were your thoughts? Now, not to be throwing you a twist in the story here, but they've not responded to me since then. So it's almost as though they put a response out so you all could see it, and it never did anything more than that. So I cannot recommend anybody buy from this company because they seem to just talk, but they don't actually walk the walk. Now, if the owner of the company would have said, hey, let me get your phone number, let me give you a call, let's talk about this, I could respect that. But having somebody on behalf of the owner of the company reach out and then not follow up with me, it certainly leaves the appearance, as far as I'm concerned, that they just wanted you to see that they reached out, but that they actually did nothing. It's been several days. They've had plenty of time to get back to me, and they have not done so. Or maybe by reading my response, they said, well, it's too late now, right? Because it's already done. I don't know what they're thinking because they haven't told me. So make of it what you will. When people don't provide information, it only leaves people to conclude with their imagination, which is all I can do and it's all you can do. And it's not, you don't want to leave it to my imagination because I'm going to think the worst. PJ the Great says, I wouldn't expect them to, Carrie. They were just trying to save face, not actually fix the issue. You fixed the issue, and I applaud you for that. Well, that's the problem, though. They're not telling us, right? So we don't really know what their intent is. Are they that bold that they would reach out and just try to say the right thing, but then when it came to actually doing something, they won't do it? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they were already demonized by showing what they allowed to go through as a build. When you saw the poor cable management, the lack of cable management consideration in the case, the fact that that case wasn't designed to hold everything they put in it. And yet, how do you fix that? You thought that was good enough when you built it and you shipped it, and you only care because somebody's embarrassed you and showed what you thought was good enough, right? So now if you want to make it right, you show me the way you're building computers. Let's take a tour of your factory and let's see some computers that are going out for shipping, just like I showed you this one. Let's see what their computers look like. Give us some examples of how you fixed your building processes to reestablish some faith that your company actually cares about the machines they're building and cares about the customers they're selling very expensive computers to. That's not likely going to happen based on my experience with them so far. If it happens, I'd be delighted. But if it doesn't and we never speak of them again, I'd be delighted as well, because I never heard of them before this. And if we never talk about them again after it, we're right back where we were, and we can keep marching forward, setting examples. And when these companies show up like this, when I get a machine up here on the bench that's assembled very poorly or assembled in a way that just, it's clear they don't care, then we're going to show it to you guys and make you aware of what to expect if you want to order a machine from companies like that. And if you're okay with it, knock yourself out. But if you're getting the idea that you're going to get a machine that's put together well and with care and pride, you might want to take your business somewhere else. Ross Quarter contributes $10. Hey Ross, thank you for supporting the channel. Ron Hillier says, hello. Hey Ron. I got sniffles. I think something's in the air. I'm not sick. It's just, I don't know, trees are blowing a bunch of stuff in the pool. Maybe I've never had allergies when I was younger, but I think I'm getting them. And I'm sure this expensive microphone is picking up all the detail of me trying to clear my nose so I can breathe. Sorry, I'll try to stop breathing if it bothers you. I cracked myself up. Last quarter said, I am doing more and more video editing. Carrie, you have inspired me to build myself a new computer to reduce my video processing time. Right on. Yeah. Well, video editing, I'll tell you, there's not enough power. You can build the best Threadripper with the most amount of RAM and the biggest storage and the fastest video card, and it's not going to be fast enough. So spend as much as you can, as much as you can afford, because video editing is going to use it all. Andy Kane says, did you get my Amazon gift card Friday? I guess not, Andy. If it hasn't been, when I get an Amazon gift card and I apply it, it sends a thank you. I always send a thank you note. So if you didn't get that, then chances are I didn't get your gift card. Maybe something you have to resend. You know, after a couple of days, Amazon will send a gift card recipient a reminder and say, hey, you know, you have a gift card waiting. I haven't received anything like that yet. I don't know if it's only since Friday, if that's enough days, but it has to be Amazon.com. It can't be like Amazon.co.uk. It has to be in US dollars. It cannot be in pounds or other currencies. Sometimes when people do that, I cannot claim the gift card. It won't let me. And then it doesn't give me the ability to reach out and tell them. So I don't know if yours was one of those or if it was sent to a wrong email address. I have no idea. Andy says, I got a thank you from you. Okay, well then, I don't know why you asked. But thank you for sending the card. I appreciate it. Excuse me. Tim Soul contributes $10. Thank you, Tim. Any other technical questions you guys have? Any actual problems you have you're trying to solve instead of imaginary ones or ones you're worried about if you do so? I hate questions, by the way, where people say, what would happen if I did this? My question is, try it and let me know. But if you have an actual problem with the computer, I'm totally happy to help you with it. A real problem, not a theoretical, hypothetical, what if problem. I hate those. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen. You have to tell me. And if there's a problem, let me know. And I can help you with it. But if you want to know what's going to happen before you try, just try and see. Nothing else to tell you. That's so frustrating to me. So I realize when I ask people, do you have any questions? I now need to sort of put a little asterisk and say, you know, questions for problems you actually have. Because all I end up with are theoretical and hypothetical what ifs. And yeah, that's not what I mean when I ask you if you have any questions. I'm referring to any current issues that I can help you with. And I assume if we're not getting any questions for any problems you actually have, that you're not having any. And if that's the case, then we can wrap things up here early. I enjoy helping those who need help. But speculation and mind reading and fortune telling, yeah, that's just not my wheelhouse. I'm not good at it. Queso Dealer says, when my desktop goes to sleep, sometimes my date and time gets set to something like $29.99 or some super far date in the future. Any idea what might cause this other than a bad motherboard? A bad battery on your motherboard could cause that. You could also have maybe a bad driver. Make sure all your drivers are up to date. And I'm more likely to think it's a battery. Wayne Trexler. Didn't we send Wayne Trexler a free computer? I think we did. And he's decided to lash out at me and be nasty, even though I've said nothing bad about him. And I want to read his comment. He says, "The world according to Kerry, still complaining about that build. Just a fundraiser." Well, Wayne, I don't know if you read the subject matter of this video, but it's about Marvin's computer. So we haven't delivered the result to Marvin yet. This is the final look at it. And as a reminder, not everybody sees every video, and this may be, part one that they're watching. So as a reminder to them, and as someone in the chat room asked a question to follow up about the company, I address the questions that are asked. So to lash out at me as though it's a fundraiser because people contribute, I've not asked anybody for any money. I will say thank you. Much like a tip, it's never expected, but it's always appreciated. What kind of jerk would you be if someone offered you some money and there's no way to turn it down here, and you didn't say thank you, Wayne? I'm not drumming up any money. I'm not fundraising. Anybody who's contributed today has done so of their own free will. That was their idea. And if they want to, I'm going to say thank you, and I'm going to publicly give them credit for their generosity and kindness. But to lash out with such a nasty comment, that's uncalled for. And this is what makes it frustrating for me to be a content creator is I'm doing this all. You have no idea what the expenses are on this. No idea. Because if you did, you wouldn't say anything like that. YouTube's paying me less now than I was making a year ago, even though the channel's bigger. The financial balance of this is incredible. One of the things I liked about making the cooking videos is I can make exactly the same amount of money from YouTube by cracking an egg on a stove. It costs me 30 cents. And yet I can make a build with the $10,000 parts investment out of my money, much of which was made possible because of the generosity of viewers, but it was never asked for. And I put it back into the channel. I'm not buying, I don't have my Tesla. I'm not selfishly keeping all that money for myself. These veteran computers I give away, if there's money left over, I put it back into the channel. I put it back into the community. I don't have to, but it's the right thing to do. And I would hope that you would encourage that. And I would hope that you'd understand that there's so much hatred and nastiness online that you would not want to contribute to it. That's the least I would hope. And if you don't like the content you're watching, why are you watching it? I didn't make you watch it either. So it's sometimes very frustrating to do the right thing and then have to deal with lashback when if you just never made any videos and you never put yourself out there, nobody would know you existed and you wouldn't offer anybody any help. And then you wouldn't get randomly punched by people in the public who you've never met, who you've never harmed or said anything bad about. It's just sad. Chris Johnson with $10 says, "This is for you, Kerry." Hey, thank you, Chris. Again, I appreciate you. Never expected, but always appreciated. But this is really one of the things I would say to anybody that's got something to complain about is I dare you to make a video like I do. Put yourself live on camera, and then if you'd like, let us know, and I will share the link to 360,000 people, and you can get a taste of what it feels like. And then we'll see if you ever want to do that again. Planet Cryos with $5 says, "Check email. I sent you an Amazon gift card, buddy." Hey, thank you, Planet Cryos. Most of the parts and tools that you see me using are purchased from Amazon. So by sending the Amazon gift card rather than a super chat, it's more direct. There's no, pay. YouTube takes 30% of those super chat contributions, and then the government wants another 30%. So what you're seeing isn't what I'm getting. But with Amazon, Amazon's not taking anything, and then I can use those gift cards to buy the stuff I'm buying anyway. So I get more of it, that's all. But regardless, any sort of support, even if it's just kind words, always appreciated because, there's so many nasty people out there who just haven't, I don't know, there's something driving them to be nasty. And I wouldn't want to go through life just being angry at YouTube content creators unless they were specifically talking about me or people I cared about. I don't see anything yet come in from you, but we'll check back on that, Planet Cries. There's sometimes a little delay, with that system between email coming from Amazon into my servers. So we'll check it in a few minutes, but thank you. More importantly, it's just the thought really that counts. And William Sean contributes $4.99 and says, I love your builds. Well, thank you, William. Appreciate you. I am going to try and do less builds. To be honest with you, I'm a little sort of burned out on the builds. I like to help people. The reason I do these builds is I know I'm going to sell somebody a computer that they're paying for at cost. I'm going to make a few bucks off the video, and I know that they're going to get a good, reliable computer at the best price possible for that amount of memory and storage and speed and reliability. And when I tell somebody I'm sorry I can't help you, a lot of times bad things happen, and it's not my responsibility, right? But I'll give you an example. Marvin reached out to me to have me build him a computer over a year ago. I don't know Marvin. I didn't know who he was. He's just another random person online wants me to build him a computer. And I don't know what he wants. I didn't even engage to even figure it out. I just said, man, I am really super busy and I just can't take on any more work. If you want to reach out in a few months, we'll see where I'm at. Because I reached a point where there were just more people that wanted help than I could possibly help. Well, then Marvin bought that computer from, this other company, and then here we are now undoing all of that. And he spent more than 2.5 times what he would have spent if I would have built it for him. If I would have said, I can squeeze one more, I will help just one more, that whole thing would have been avoided, and he'd still be using it today with no problems. And if he did have a problem, I'd take care of it. But statistically speaking, when I have computers come in for repair, I show them to you. So if you've not been seeing any lately, it's because I haven't had any, or I have some clients locally who will not allow me to show them the computers. And of course, I respect that. If they don't want their stuff shown, one of my clients is like, yeah, they could probably look at the serial number and see that it's registered to us. And I'm like, well, it doesn't work that way, but it doesn't matter. If you're not comfortable with it, I'm not going to try and change your mind or twist your arm. Or if you're just not comfortable with it, it doesn't matter why, right? Because the minute he started telling me why, it didn't make any sense. And he's not they're not technical people. And I've got lots of other things to film, so I'm not desperate for the content. So there are some repairs I do that I do remotely, and I won't show you the remote work, and that I go on site to do, that they won't allow cameras on site. But if it's possible that I have a repair that I can show you, obviously if it's here, if it's on this bench, I'm going to show it. And if it's a build I did that's coming in for repair, like that power supply we did the other day, you saw how easy that repair was. One of the things about these computers is, in the rare circumstance where something goes wrong, they're very simple to fix. The cable management's very easy to work around it so that you're not having to undo a bunch of cables to fans to take out a power supply. And it's very inexpensive because you have a choice of any power supply you want to put in there, from a cheap one to an expensive one to anything in the middle. And I always try to stick sort of on the, I never want to scrape the bottom of the barrel, but I like to get above that. Not by too much, because then, when things get too powerful, you get back to reliability problems, at least in my experience. The Cool 2T with a $2 contribution says, great build, Kerry, and I like the adapter idea for USB-C. Yeah, at least that way it works, right? It's not going to run full speed, but it works. And 99 cents again from Planet Cryos. Thank you again, Planet Cryos. Johnny Weld says, thank you guys for hitting the like button. As a reminder, yes, please do hit the like button. Be sure and subscribe if you like content that I make. Let me know by hitting the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you've not, and you can be made aware when I post new content by clicking the bell icon to turn on your notifications. And then you can go into your YouTube account settings and determine how you want those notifications sent. They don't do them via email anymore. But thank you guys again. I appreciate the kindness. The like button doesn't cost you anything, and yet very few people could be bothered. So that's what you're up against as a content creator on YouTube, is the can't be bothered. You know, if you understood what went in for me to make a live video, the idea that doing this is too much work for most of your viewers, it's enough to make you not want to do it. Like, if people won't even do that, it's like, why are you even watching the video? If it's not good enough for you to hit the like button, why are you still here? So there's a lot of people who seemingly will eat some food they hate and say, this is the worst food I've ever had. But it's free food. I know, I want a second plate. Give me more of the free food. And then they continue to voluntarily shovel this putrid, disgusting food that's free, and then complain about it, and then keep asking for second helpings. That's what it feels like as a content creator from a very large portion of viewers. And it's something, you know, I have to deal with it. I have to contend with it. And as you can see, I'm not dealing with it well, because it's unjustifiable. It's like, really? If it's not good enough to hit the like button, why are you still here? That's all I want to know, right? Stop eating if you hate it so much. But, you know, I'm not going to change it, right? I like to be fully transparent. I want you to know what's going on this side of the camera. Things are not necessarily as a lot of content creators make it out to be. And a lot of content creators won't acknowledge any of this stuff. They just ignore it. It's what all TV shows do too. You got a problem with a TV show, you're not going to talk to the director or the producer. You're not going to talk to the actors. You're not going to. And if you do, they're not going to respond. I'm starting to understand why. But we do have a lot of great people in the community, and I thank you all for your kindness again. And Andy Kane contributes €2. He says, every little bit helps. Good to see you, Carrie. Thank you, Andy. Thank you again. Paul Garrett said, I recently tried to make a video and very quickly found out it's a lot harder than it looks. So kudos. I encourage everybody who thinks they can make a video, make it. Do it. Show me how it's done. Inspire me. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying you can't do it. You absolutely can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. But it may not be as simple as pushing a button. And until you know, there's this idea that you have that we have in our heads. I could do that. But then when you actually do it, you might find out there's a lot more to it. You have oversimplified. Some people say, I could do that, and not only do they do it better than everybody else. You know, look at Mr. Beast, you know. Look at, I'm going to go old school, but look at Pat Benatar. You know, Pat Benatar was working at a supermarket, and her friends took her to see Liza Minnelli. And she never saw Liza Minnelli before. And she said, I could do what Liza Minnelli's doing, and she quit her job and started singing, and, you know, Pat Benatar. So some people can actually achieve a greater status and set a higher bar by simply being inspired by somebody else, whether you go, I could do that. There was a comedian who said that. I can't remember who it was. I think it was a roast, a comedy roast, and they were like, you know, making really nice comments about a comedy legend. I don't know, it could have been Richard Pryor or somebody, and it might even have been like Eddie Murphy or something, saying, you know, when I saw Richard Pryor, I just thought to myself, I could do that. You know, it went the complete opposite direction. And then look, he did it, and look how good, you know, Eddie Murphy is. So I'm not saying that as a challenge to you that I don't think you can do it. But I think that having made an attempt, I think that you will be more considerate to content creators and maybe give them a little more slack when you have a better understanding of what it takes to do it. And if you don't have a team of people working for you, it's a lot of work. Just to make a 15-minute video could take a week or longer if you're, editing and you're reshooting and you're running a script and you want to say everything correctly. And there's a channel called, Technology Connections. And he likes to show bloopers at the end. And I love that, because if you just watch that, you think it's like a live newscast where they just read a teleprompter and everything happens live. He is filming things over and over and over again. He's slipping up, he's making mistakes, he's got to reshoot, and then all that ends on the cutting room floor. And you would never know that if he didn't show some of the bloopers at the end. So I appreciate, and Tech Deals was doing that as well. They're showing some of their bloopers, which really shows you, that it's not just a one and done. And that's what I like about live content, is if I screw up, that's it. It's done. There's nothing I can do. It's like a live Broadway show. The show must go on. You just keep pushing past it and move on. And that's more alike to reality in working, because when you're working a job, no matter what you do, you make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, and it doesn't physically harm you. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be demoted or lose your job. It's just some simple little error, and you correct it and move on. Nobody ever expects everybody to be perfect all the time. That would be impossible unless you are machines. And if you want people to behave like machines, I don't want to live in your world, because that seems like a very cold place and boring and predictable. Planet Cryos again with a $5 contribution said, yeah, making videos is hard at times, but I like doing it. That white build took a long time and people don't understand. And you did a great job, by the way, on that video edit that you did of your white build. And I can only imagine how much time it took you to film that on your own, without any camera assistant, without any editor, without anybody to monitor your sound. Boy, I'll tell you, there were times when I filmed and my microphone wasn't on, and when I went to edit what I filmed, I had no audio. Think about it like this. Let's say you decide, hey, I can do this, so I'm going to do it. And so you get a microphone, you set it all up, and you put your processor in your motherboard, and you're going to show how to build a computer. You put your RAM in, you put your solid state drive in, and then you're like, all right, let me just see what I've got now. And you stop and you play it back, and no audio, because you forgot to turn the microphone on. What do? You're going to take the CPU out, you're going to take the RAM out, you're going to take the M.2 out, you're going to put it all back in its box, and you're going to do it all again. Or you're going to go, you know what, never mind, it's stupid. I'll tell you what I would do it live. There's a couple of times just the other day my microphone wasn't on. Whoops, and being live, I have someone tell me. But if you don't have somebody there to hold the camera and wear a headset so they can monitor the audio and video, you also have to move the camera for close-ups, which means you have to stop filming, move the camera, start filming again, and remember where you left off. If you have someone holding the camera, you can do what we call in-camera editing, where the camera moves to the close-ups when they need to be, and you don't have to take those shots separately. So it's great when you have a camera operator who can also monitor your audio, so you know immediately. But who's going to do that for free, right? I mean, if you got a couple friends or whatever, and you guys want to do that, I tell you that the best thing that can happen is also the worst thing, and that is that you guys enjoy it, and you say, let's do this some more, and then you start making money, and then you start trying to figure out how much money does one person get over the other person, and then it becomes pressure. We have to do it some more, and then the fun starts going out of it, and then the money starts being sort of resentful. You're not giving me enough money, you're taking too much money, and then that relationship's not only is the video stuff done, but the whole relationship and friendship is done. You've got to be very careful how you walk that rope, because, boy, the money, that can really ruin friendships if you're not careful with, if you have different ideas of what fair is. Some funny people in the chat room. Old Man 55 said, at 66, I found out what I used to be able to do just isn't possible for me now. Knowing your limits is hard to accept for me. So I cherry pick the best videos like Carrie's to keep my mind from rot. Well, instead of focusing on what you can't do, I think you should focus on what you still can do. And I see a lot of people, myself included, as I don't have the energy and I don't have some of the stamina I used to have. I used to be able to get 3 builds out a day. I can't do it now. I just don't have it in me. I'm not as fast, and it's not as exciting. So it just kind of feels like Groundhog Day, where I'm just repeating the same stuff. But I'm committed because, I gave somebody my word, and I want to help them, and I want to make sure they get a good computer. They're getting a bargain of a price. So I'm motivated, right? But I just don't have that energy. But there's still a lot of things I can do. There's a lot of things I used to do to my cars mechanically that I shouldn't be doing. My body would bounce back from injury a lot faster than it does now, and whenever I'd work on the car, I'm always like cutting my hands up and stuff like that, and the benefit of doing it yourself is that you get it done on your own timeline, and because you're the one that's doing it, it's going to get done right. If it's not, it's your fault. So when I grew up, I've talked about this before, we didn't have any money. And if you didn't fix something on your own, it didn't get fixed because you didn't have the money to pay somebody to do it. So you either fixed it yourself or you went without. Those were your 2 choices. As a result, I was forced. I didn't have a choice. If I didn't want to take the bus, I had to learn how to fix my car. And there was no YouTube. And tools weren't free, and tools weren't cheap. You can go to Harbor Freight Tools and buy tools for a fraction of what we used to have to pay for a single wrench back in the day. But as a result of having to do it, I didn't want to, I had to. I am so glad that I have that experience and that knowledge, so that if I'm going to pay somebody to do a job, I know what a fair price should be. I know what that job should take, mostly. And, with YouTube now, if you have the inclination to do it yourself, or you want to know what's involved for an unfamiliar job, go to YouTube. And it's a great resource, and it's great to be self-reliant, so you don't have to rely on anybody, and you can do it yourself. And if you do hire somebody, you're not going to get raked over the coals unfairly for labor or parts if you have an idea of the ballpark of what that should cost and how much time that should take. And, I am so grateful that I grew up that way, because otherwise, I'm sure I'd get taken to the cleaners and be none the wiser for it. Car mechanics, car salesmen, anything to do with a car. I always try to get involved. Anything to do with appliance repair, just a lot of places where it's common to see gouging. I was very impressed when I took a car in to this local shop. It's a little franchise in Phoenix. And I said, I want the oil changed and the tires rotated. And they came back and said, we didn't rotate the tires because the tires on the front of the car, it's a front-wheel drive car, they're in better shape than the rear tires, so we're not going to do that. You've got the best tires up front where your steering and power is. And they had no recommendations for any other reason to repair, and I didn't have any complaints, right? But they didn't say, oh, and by the way, you need engine mounts, or your power steering pump is leaking. None of that nonsense, because there's nothing wrong with those parts, and if they had done that, I'd have been like, show me. Let me see it. I once had the car dealer tell me that my air filter needed to be changed in the Mustang. And I brought the Mustang in for an oil change and tire rotation. And they said, you need an air filter. And I said, are you looking at a computer that's showing the last time you guys replaced it? Or are you physically looking at the air filter? He says, we're physically looking at the air filter. And yours is dirty and needs to be replaced. And I said, well, you know, I changed that air filter yesterday before I brought the car into you. So how would it get dirty between yesterday and today when I didn't even drive it yesterday? He says, well, I'll tell you what, when you come here, let's take a look at it together. I said, okay. So I drove over, you know, I got over there. They brought my car out. The service advisor came out. We popped the hood, and I said, show me my air filter. I don't want to touch it. You show me. He opens it up, and there is a brand new, completely white, brand new air filter. And he kind of opens up, you know, it's kind of like an accordion. It's all shiny and new. And he goes, yeah, that looks new. I said, okay. And that was the end of that discussion. But I know a lot of people would be, oh, I need an air filter, okay. And by changing it myself, I just ordered the air filter on Amazon. It shows up at my door in 2 days. You take off 2 clips, there's no tools. Take the old one out, throw it away, pop the new one in. It's $8, I'm in an amount. Dealer wants $25, then they want $25 in labor. So I feel very lucky to have been forced to have to learn how to work on cars so that I'm not being taken to the cleaners on unnecessary repairs or paying outrageous labor for something I could have easily done myself. So while I'm not willing to rotate tires anymore on my own, it's too much work. Or to change oil because you got to recycle it, it's a pain. Not that we weren't recycling it before, but you know, carrying the oil in a car and it can spill and it's messy and it's just more time and I just don't have the time. But I can change my cabin filter. I can change my air filter, and I will because it's easy and it's much, much cheaper. And if I can still do those things, I'm still going to focus on the things I can do instead of focusing on the things I can't do anymore. And I would suggest my advice is follow the same, right? If you still can see and you can still hear and you can still type, there's still plenty you can do as far as, you know, writing a novel. If you can sit and type, you can write a novel or tell your life story. Write it so that your ancestors have it to read back in the future years. You know, if that's all you can do, that's still something you can do to be productive. And too many people focus on, you know, focus on the past. It's like, focus on right now and what we can do today, because you may not be able to do that tomorrow. All right, sorry. Sort of sounding like a priest. Let's see. A couple of contributions. Armando Garcia again with $5 says, great things happen to those who don't stop believing, trying, learning, and being grateful. To me, that's a life full of meaning and success. I agree with you, yeah. And again, he contributes, Armando again, $5. He says, people are going to comment and pass judgment and be negative, and it doesn't reflect on us. It's sad that that's what they see in themselves. Haters hate. Agreed, it's a psychological predisposition to being negative. And can you imagine just living your life and everything is just nasty and negative? Like, that is a punishment in and of itself for that behavior. And the only person who can stop it is that person. It's weird that that's the choice. Happiness is a choice. I was really motivated by America's Got Talent. Had a singer, was it last season, that got the golden buzzer, and she had cancer. I think she called herself Nightbirde with an E, B-I-R-D-E. What was her name? What was her name? But she died last month. But she sang the song, and it was so heartfelt, and it was an original piece that she wrote. But one of the things that she said afterwards, and it moved everybody, she said, what I figured out, you know, because she's been battling cancer for a long time, and it's all through her body. It's everywhere. She had a 2% chance for survival. And she said, you can't stop waiting for life to stop being hard to decide to be happy. Life is hard. It's always going to be hard, and it's likely going to get harder. So, you know, that kind of hit me, because here's somebody who's facing death, and she has a choice on to feel sorry for herself and mope and say, why me? Or to say, despite all the reasons I have to be sad, that won't change anything. If I'm happy or if I'm sad, it doesn't change the cancer. So if those things have an equal output and require the equal amount of energy, why not choose happiness for yourself? Why not be ultra selfish and say, despite all the reasons the culture and society has raised me to believe that I should be angry and pissed off, logically that makes no impact. It won't make me live any longer. If you're miserable, you might feel like you're living longer. But why not choose happiness? Why not? If it's as easy of a decision, negativity or positivity, and it requires as much effort to do one as the other, and the outcome doesn't change other than whether or not you enjoy the ride, at least enjoy the ride. Whatever time you've got left, try to make the best of it. You know, even if it means smiling more, offering other people support and kindness. And I think it was beautiful, and it was very inspiring. And it's sad that, you know, last month it got her, you know, it took her away. But at least she had her moment. At least in her lifetime, she reached a point that she was able to stand in front of a worldwide stage and sing, having not been a professional singer, and for everybody to hear her amazing voice and listen to her amazing story and know that she existed. And that video and that story will be around for generations to watch and learn from. Had she just sat around feeling sorry for herself, we wouldn't be talking about her, wouldn't know who she is. It's never too late to make a difference in the world, and it's never too late to choose happiness. It's just a choice, nothing more than a choice. I don't know when this became a sermon. It seems obvious to me, and I don't know why it's so hard for people to be happy. It's like they don't want it. Somehow there's some satisfaction in remaining negative. And if you let somebody turn you negative, you're letting them steal your happiness. Why would you let them take it? I let it happen. Why do I do that? And as soon as I'm aware of it, I stop. And it sometimes confuses people, right? Might look a bit bipolar, but the reason it's happening is I'm hearing myself, and I'm like, wait a minute. I don't have to allow this person to upset me. I don't have to give them consent to take my happiness. It's mine. That's mine. And I'm going to hold on to it with both hands, and you can try and pull it as much as you want. I'm not giving you my happiness. And I think more people should do that, including me, more often. It's sometimes hard to be self-aware in an emotional moment where instinct kicks in, but we have the ability, you know, we can have a moment of self-awareness, and it only takes a moment to say, why am I so angry? Because of that person? Why would I let that person steal my happiness? Why did I permit that? I'm not going to. I want to take my happiness back. It's real easy to take it back. It's hard for them to take. Well, maybe, depending on how easy you make it. But it's very easy to take it back. You just decide you want it back, and it's in your hands. And hold it. And if they just won't leave you alone, walk away. The earth is a big place. Just walk away. Take your happiness with you when you go. Don't let anybody take it. Best advice I can give you, man. It's on you. It's your responsibility. It's yours. And it's priceless. Last time I went into Walmart, they didn't have any happiness in stock. I didn't even see an aisle where they would put it. If I could go to Walmart and buy it, I'd buy every bit of it they had. Jim says, not the whole world watches talent shows. Well, I mean, if you're going to be literal about every word I speak, then you're acting like a computer and not like a human being. When I say that the world has heard her voice, I am saying that that is a worldwide, YouTube is worldwide. Anybody can watch that. And America's Got Talent has millions of viewers. So, being this isolated person in her hometown, never leaving her house, apart from her family and friends, nobody would know she existed. So she put herself out there on the world stage. Because it's a world stage doesn't mean that literally everybody in the world is going to watch it. But what it means is now hundreds, well, I'll say millions, and potentially hundreds of millions of people at the extreme, and maybe that's a number that happens over time, will learn of her if they haven't already, and find inspiration in that story. She didn't just die in vain. She sent a message of inspiration to those looking for it. Or maybe to some not even looking for it, some that just stumbled on it, like me, and it's not her responsibility. But perhaps it gave her a bigger meaning for her existence that made it easier for her to lead by example and to go down this difficult road knowing that there's something bigger at play here because she made it so. And I find that so inspiring and something that I would hope others would strive to live up to, because by leading by example, you are doing what very few people will ever do. And that is noble. Andy wants to go to Walmart with me. All right, put your best pajamas on and we'll go over there. And Robert Simons makes a good point. He says she touched more lives than people will ever know. Yeah, you can't calculate it. We'll never know. But she could have touched none at all, or just those closest to her. And I'm so glad that, whatever went on in her brain that said, I'm going to get up on stage in front of millions of people on television and on YouTube, and I'm going to sing, having never sung professionally in my life, because I am dying and I have nothing to lose and nothing to fear. What's more fearful than death? So once that's out of the way, all of a sudden, all those things that were holding you back, all your fears and all your anxieties and what if, she just said, I'm going to do it. And I am so grateful that she did. And I talk about it because maybe some of you would like to see it. Maybe some of you have never seen it. I think she did it. She has an amazing voice. And I think her story is sad but inspirational and is a great example of having a good attitude. And not for other people, but just for yourself. I think it's healthier. Maybe I'm wrong. Decide for yourself. If you go to, here in YouTube, if you just do a search for AGT, which is America's Got Talent, and then put a space and put the word songbird, or sorry, nightbird. It's nightbird. It should just pull the video up. Surf in the Net Computer Repair says, I am no longer in my computer repair shop. I now do repairs remotely. Thanks to your video, I use Instant House Call and I love it. Thank you so much. Will you bring back Corey Fruitman in the future? Yes, of course. Corey, I consider Corey a good friend, not only because he has a very similar name, but he's also a super guy. And there is going to be a reason to bring him back, more than just to say hello. But I can't tell you what it is. I'll let you use your imagination. But when that day comes, he'll be here to tell us all about it. I'll let him tell you about it. Is it songbird? Is it night? I thought it was nightbird. Is it nightbird or songbird? Now I'd have to look. I can't remember anymore. I thought it was nightbird with an E. Yeah. If you just type into YouTube search nightbird, you don't have to put anything else in. I'll just put it in chat there. Nightbird, put an E on the end of nightbird. The very first video that comes up is officially from America's Got Talent, and the next couple of videos down is in relation to that. And Ron, my friend Ron, has posted a link there. Thank you, Ron. I had an email from a viewer, and I'm going to read it to you guys, since we're talking about inspiration and, you know, despite some of the nastiness I deal with on a regular basis. Oh, there's Planet Cryos sent an Amazon gift card. Thank you, Planet Cryos. Very generous. I received this email, if I can find it. I get so many emails. If I wait 2 days, it's, you know, buried and I have to find it. So bear with me here for a second. It's in here somewhere. And Armando Garcia contributes $5 again. He says, Uncle Kerry, the same could be said about you. You impact lives daily, some in ways you will never know. So many have been inspired to build for the first time. Well, I hope so. I hope so. And from time to time, I get emails that are very uplifting, and I believe it was sent to me for the purpose of reading aloud so that others may be inspired. But gosh darn, I didn't think it was this far down in my email. It's in here somewhere. Where did it go? I feel like it wasn't this far back. definitely wasn't that far back. But that message in the chat room just reminded me about it. I've been wanting to read this aloud, and I just haven't done any broadcasts lately since it came in. So, I didn't think about it today. Here it is. I found it. This is from a company. They're called Elite Computer Solutions. And I'll do my best to read this without messing it up. I've been trying to write this for a long time. It started as a thank you email to a couple of YouTube creators that I feel have helped me transition to my new career as a computer tech. As I was writing, I took advice from some folks that thought it should be written as a book. Then I was told to make it a video. Well, 18 months later, none of the above have been completed. Now everything has come full circle, and I'm back at my computer searching for the words to express my gratitude to these gentlemen that through their selflessness have helped me out of homelessness. I guess I should explain. In February of 2020, I was a successful personal trainer in El Paso, Texas, and I loved what I did, and I made a comfortable living. Unbeknownst to me, just a month later, I would be taking care of a dying grandmother while my gym would be closed due to the pandemic. Gyms were one of the first businesses that were shut down completely and would remain closed for nearly 11 and a half months, and to this day, nearly 2 years later, have not fully recovered. Sunday, April the 5th, my whole world fell apart. I'd lost my mother to the same cancer in 2009, and now my grandmother took her last breath in my arms that Sunday morning. I was left alone in this world. I felt completely lost and had nowhere to go and no one to turn to, and I thought about everything and nothing at the same time. I think the worst place to be at a time like this is stuck at home as I sheltered in place, alone in my own head. I can honestly say death would have been a welcomed friend. I don't know why, but a couple of weeks prior to this, I had purchased some computers and electronics at a garage sale I thought I could repair and possibly sell. I had no idea what I was doing, only a curiosity that I'd had since I was in my teens. And well, now I had the time, I searched for how to fix a dead laptop on YouTube and found Kerry Holzman's channel. Through his teachings, I was able to repair that laptop, install Windows 10, and start using it. This evening, Uncle Kerry, as I affectionately call him, was live. That day, broken and lost, I shared in the chat, my grandmother had passed, and I was showered with love and concern, not only from Kerry, but from the entire community. For that, I am forever grateful. Kerry's built a community unseen anywhere on the internet, a safe, positive place I go to often. I've learned so much as far as being a Windows PC tech. I went from zero to being a working tech from the things I learned from Kerry, but working from home during a pandemic doesn't leave room for growth of a small business. I kept hoping the gym would reopen and things would go back to normal, but they didn't. I was broke and at a crossroads. Do I save my gym, something I had worked so hard for, or do I keep a roof over my head? September of that year, I chose to try to save the gym, which had been a dream of mine for so long. So I moved into the gym. And as we started to reopen, I believed people would come running back, but it wasn't so. Not only did people not come back as quickly as I thought, but we were faced with the uncertainty of being closed again, and we were closed 2 more times. I was out of money, and I have sold and pawned just about everything I had. The last thing of value was a bunch of Apple MacBooks I'd purchased at a yard sale about 11 months ago. The problem is none of them worked. I turned to YouTube once again and began an education provided by Mr. Louis Rossman. I knew nothing about logic board repair and, to be honest, had no desire to. I just knew these MacBooks could feed me and give me the ability to hold on just a little bit longer. The first MacBook I was able to repair was an A1217, late 2012, with an i7 and Retina display I'd purchased for $50. The MacBook sold almost immediately for almost $400. I couldn't believe it. I started learning more and more and purchasing tools to be able to do more. Soon word got out I fixed electronics and Elite PC Rescue was born. and now it's transformed to Elite Computer Solutions. Not only do we continue to repair Windows PCs and MacBooks, but we offer complete IT solutions to several businesses in town. All of this is possible because of these two gentlemen. I would be broke, homeless, and on the street were it not for Carrie and Lewis, and for that I put these words down on paper to express my gratitude. A personal trainer for over 10 years, I knew nothing else. But because these two people gave freely, I now have a successful business. I could not have done it without the mentorship of these two men. I wish there was a way to express just how grateful I am. I no longer live in my gym. I have a house I'm renting. I have a workshop there where I do most of the logic board repair, but I also still have the gym with workshop there as well. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your channels and for teaching me everything I know. I know God had a hand in all of this, but it would not have been possible were it not for their selflessness. I wish there was more I could say or do to express my gratitude, but for now, I hope this humble letter is a start, because I will not rest nor let a day go by without paying it forward whenever I can. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Lewis. Respectfully, Armando Garcia. A very grateful vet you helped out of homelessness. I give full authorization to use my name in this email, in whole or in part, to the recipients of this email, Mr. Kerry Holzman and Mr. Lewis Rossman, in any way they deem appropriate. Man, if I got emails like that every day, that's better than any amount of money. It's so much better. You can't spend it, you know? It stays with you. It's meaningful. And, you know, there are times when I certainly wondered, what's the point of this? All I'm doing is arguing with people. But a lot of people just stay quiet. Most viewers don't comment. If you look at any video on YouTube and look at the number of comments and compare it to the number of views, any video you want, it's frequently less than 1% of the total number of views, the total number of comments. So I really shouldn't let those naysayers get to me. It's something I've been working on for a long time. And it's just in my instinctive nature to defend myself when I'm attacked versus walking away. It's just PTSD from being bullied in the 80s and running from the bullies. They only chased you, right? So it wasn't, the bullying never stopped. Nobody ever helped me until I figured it out on my own the hard way and got some self-esteem and self-confidence and worked out and was ready to defend myself, that the bullying stopped. I wanted to fight. I was angry. And I think the bully sensed I was eager to fight. When I was running from the fight, that was fun for the bully. It wasn't fun for me. When I wanted to fight and the bullies didn't find it fun anymore, they left me alone. Best I can conclude is what happened, because it didn't make any sense to me. You wanted to fight. Well, now I'm ready. Well, now you don't want to. It doesn't make any sense. So I never did get my fight. I think maybe somewhere there's some rage deep inside of me waiting for that fight to finally happen so I can get that out. But I still defend myself when I'm attacked. But if you look at what most people in the public eye do, is they simply don't respond. Whether it's a politician being questioned by a news person about some thing they got caught red-handed doing, they just don't talk into the microphone. And when it's a celebrity or if it's a TV personality, they just simply don't respond. And what happens when they do respond and they defend themselves is then they get attacked further, because if you're in the public eye, you're supposed to take whatever the public throws at you, and you're not allowed to throw it back. It's some cultural rule that you're the bad guy if you return fire. So there is no bad guy in ignoring it. If you ignore it and don't acknowledge them, they can talk about you and talk about you and talk about you, but you're not talking about them. And I guess that's how you're winning, because as long as they're talking about you, you're worthwhile to talk about. But if you're talking about them, they're not worthwhile to talk about, and therefore they're winning. And that makes you, apparently in the public's eye, aim at low-hanging fruit. but it goes against everything in how I was raised. I just defend myself. I don't take kindly to being attacked, and I want it to stop. And I see these as attacks. But then, emails like that come in. And all of a sudden, there's this clarity of, this is what I'm doing is important. And it may not be for everybody, but I never said it was. I never said my videos were for everybody, and I don't know why they assume it. I have people that tell me, I'm unsubscribing. Well, what made you think I wanted you to subscribe? There's a lot of assumptions that are made. Well, your channel's not going to get as big if you continue to do with this. You don't know. What do you know about YouTube? You're going to tell me how to do a YouTube channel? Where's yours? And maybe I want my YouTube channel to get smaller. Did that ever occur to you? So there's a lot of assumptions that are made by people that didn't ask me. Like, hey, do you want fewer subscribers? Maybe I do. Do you want a smaller channel? Maybe I do. If it means I get harassed less, yes, please. If it means I have less of people like that, it can't come soon enough. Did that ever occur to you? But they don't offer me that, they don't afford me that consideration, right? They just attack and assume this is what I want. I want more subscribers and I want more viewers. Not if they're like that, I don't. And it's like I tell you about business. I've had people say, Carrie, I'm running a business and I lost a customer and I'm kind of broken up about it. Like, and I go, well, now wait a minute. Did you lose a customer or did you lose a good customer? Because I got to tell you, I've lost a few customers in my day and I couldn't be happier that those customers went away. But when you lose a good customer, that's a problem. When you have a customer that you like and that treats you well, and they decide to take their business somewhere else, that bothers me. But when I have a customer who's demanding and they don't want to pay their bill on time, or they complain that the bill's too much, or they want to ask me 8 million questions and then not expect me to bill them for the extra time, and then they get angry because I do bill them for the extra time and they want to take their business somewhere else. Bye. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. You can go take advantage of somebody else. We'll both be happier. So I like to remind people that all people are not of value equally to a business. The customer is not always right. And customers who treat you well, you will treat better. When I go to a restaurant that I know I'm going to be eating at regularly, I like the service, I like the food. Am I going to leave a minimum tip? No. Am I going to leave an average tip? No. Am I going to leave a tip that's like 50% or more of the bill? Yes. Isn't that excessive? Yes. Why? The next time I walk in the door of that restaurant and that server sees me, that server's happy to see me. Let me take care of you. I'm going to put you in my section. And you know what I do? I leave another 50% tip again. And when I go to that restaurant, they are always happy to see me. And I'm happy to see them. And I'm anxious to get my food. I go there because the service is good and the food is good. I'm not going to just calculate the bill and go, well, okay, it was what I ordered and it was served in an acceptable amount of time, so that's 20%. I mean, we're living in a pandemic. These folks are working hard. And when I come back, I want them to be happy to see me. So, what's a few extra bucks if that means the whole dining experience is more pleasurable? Because now they're going to hang out with you a little bit more. They're going to spend a little bit more time with you, let you know they appreciate you. And not just because of the tip. I'm sure they're feeling the same way. This guy's nice. I hope they think I'm funny. I'm easygoing. If there's a problem, no problem. Food got burned, we're going to cook it again. I'd rather you did that, even if I have to wait, than serve me burned food. That's fine with me. I get it. Thank you for not serving it to me. Oh, you're not going to yell at me? No, I'd yell at you if you brought me burned food. So no problem. If I have to wait a little longer, that's fine. Thank you for resetting my expectation. No problem, right? it's a better experience for me and the place I'm doing business with. And likewise, I've had customers who say, you don't charge enough, I'm going to throw a little extra on here for you. Those customers call, how can I help you? You know what I'm saying? That's just business. So when you're just a customer, when you're just another customer and you're just doing the bare minimum and they're just doing their bare minimum to you or for you, you get what you give. And there's other customers behind you. Next, please. But if it's a good customer, a customer spends a lot of money there, they might take a little bit more time with that customer and make you wait longer. And you might not think it's fair. Trust me, it's fair. When you're on the other side of the fence and you've got bills to pay and employees to pay and, inventory to keep control of and deal with shoplifters and scam artists, and you get a good customer in there, you give them the time. And you don't just do it for them, you do it for you, because otherwise you're going to want to quit your job because you're so miserable. Those people, sometimes it's those people that keep a business open where the owners just had enough. And it's not even so much that the business isn't profitable, it's that it's not making, it's not making enough money to justify tolerating being berated and abused. Damien Jez with a $20 contribution says, hello, Kerry. Hey, Damien, thank you for your contribution and your support. Planet Cryos contributed $3, said, hope you got my gift card. Thank you, Planet Cryos. Thank you for your $75 Amazon gift card. It's very generous. Thank you. And the Armando Garcia in the chat room is not the same Armando Garcia that wrote the letter. I was thinking it was the same one too, but I think he comes into the chat room as Elite Computer Solutions. I don't think he comes in as Armando Garcia. Was that? That's what his name was, right? Am I remembering it wrong? Oh no, I have to find it again. Armando Garcia, yeah. Okay. With a real Armando Garcia, please stand up. M. Cochran said gas went up 20 cents, $4.39. It's about $4.49 here. Buying gas is the cheapest part of running a car. I don't know why these people are. If your car holds, like most modern 4-cylinder, Toyotas, Nissans, even some of the smaller Chevys and Fords, they're like a 13, 14 gallon tank of gas. And if you're getting gas and you have like 2 gallons left, you're buying 12 gallons of gas. And if 12 gallons of gas is $3.50 a gallon or $4.50 a gallon, that's a $12 difference in a tank of gas. It's not like world crushing. It's not like you're buying a new set of tires every 3 months. That gets expensive. It's not like you're having to buy a new transmission every 3 months. The price of gas is cheap. And I'll tell you what, here in Phoenix, if the price of gas went to $15 a gallon, and that meant there'd be half or less of the number of cars on the road, I would pay it just so I could enjoy driving again. With the overcrowded roads and the road construction and the car accidents and the road closures, it is miserable to drive in this town. Everybody's going somewhere. The minute we start making it more expensive, so people aren't just gallivanting around, but they actually, like when I'm driving, I'll try to, if I've got errands to run, I'll try and run all the errands in the same trip. I'll stop here, then I'll go from there and pick up the laundry over here, and then stop over here and mail a package, then go over here and deposit a check, and then go over here, and you know what I'm saying? And I try and make a loop. And when I get home, I'm done for the day. Like I am beat. When I have clients that I've got to service, I like to do that at night when I don't have to deal with the traffic. The roads are pretty wide open, and apart from they like to close the freeways at night to do road construction. But if I use Waze, I can usually plan around that, and then I enjoy driving again. But I would gladly pay 3-4 times more a gallon if it meant we got half of those cars off the road. Worth it. And people aren't just going somewhere because they're bored. They're going somewhere that they have to decide, am I going to make this investment? So the price of gas doesn't bother me, you know. If it goes up $2, so it's $20 difference. I guess if you're going through a tank of gas every week, that'll add up. But why are you going through a tank of gas every week? That's crazy. And, you know, while everybody's working remotely from home, so many are still doing that. Where's everybody going? It's weird. Don't mind me, I'm just having an old man moment. Gary Tatum contributes $20. He says, just say it, I appreciate what you do for the vets. Thanks, Gary. Well, I appreciate what the vets have done for us. You know, and they definitely, the vets, I think it's a pretty unanimous, if you took a vote from the vets, they're not getting treated well by the VA. They're not getting the care, and they're not getting taken care of, you know, when they return home and, you know, they enter the private sector, or maybe they can't, you know, because of injuries they sustained. I don't need to tell you this, right? I mean, it's not news. But if we can, you know, I can't help everybody, but man, you know, there's somebody in my own backyard this whole time. As soon as I'm made aware of it, I want to set it right. And if there's people we can help that watch the channel, part of the community, and we can send them computers, obviously I want to do that. It's not like I'm buying them a new car, you know, it's just a computer. It's not even, you know, a new computer. It's a used computer that works 100%. And I don't think it's much. I really don't. But it's amazing, you know, the difference that they can make. We sent a computer to a guy, I don't think he was a vet, but he was in Oklahoma, as I recall, and he lost his home and his barn to a fire. And he was selected to be a recipient of one of those off-lease computers about 2 years ago, I want to say. I think it was before the pandemic. So it could be a little longer. And he wrote a letter about how much that meant to him, and that was the only human kindness he had received since all of this had happened. Like, it felt to him like he was just battling everyone all the time, and that this was the first human kindness since that event, that he was struggling and felt alone. And though it wasn't the biggest gift, it was a gift, and it was more than anybody had given him. We gave a computer to somebody who said that with this computer, and they didn't say this as as a condition of receiving it. After they received it, they said, "Thank you for the computer. This is going to let me get back online." And my son-in-law said that he's going to see if he can get me a job working with Amazon remotely using this computer. I'm going to have a job now. Wow. You know, and it's a $150 computer. It's not breaking the bank. It's like $60 to $90 to ship it. We might be in it with upgrades to solid state drive. We might be in it $300. You guys, many of you out there will spend $300 or more just on your CPU. So they're getting a whole computer for that amount of money. They have to provide their own keyboard, mouse, monitor, and speakers. But a lot of people have that stuff laying around. You could pick that stuff up at Goodwill super cheap, and you're up and running for a couple of bucks. And those are the types of people we're trying to find on the giveaway, not just vets, but especially if there are vets in need. We definitely want to prioritize them. Hey, Marvin's in the chat room. Hello to Marvin. I think Marvin's going to get his computer tomorrow. Folks can say hello to Marvin Jameson. He's in blue there in the chat room. I don't know how long he's been in there, but I just saw you. Good to see you. Hey, speaking of, there's Madi Yoel. Welcome in, Madi. contributes $2. And happy birthday to Marty. I think it was Marty's birthday yesterday. Did I not call? I don't think I called Marty. I'm sorry, Marty. Everybody say happy birthday. Belated birthday. I dropped the ball. I had a lot of stuff going on yesterday. That's what I always say, isn't it? But I did. Anyway, happy birthday to Marty. I don't think I called Marty. Well, I screwed up that one. Mitch's birthday was Saturday. Everybody's having birthdays. I feel jealous. No, wait. You can have them. You can have mine. Johnny Weld said March 6th was his birthday. Happy birthday, Johnny. I guess March is that first week of March seems to be a popular birth week. Look at all you guys saying happy birthday. You guys rock. Kelly Stewart saying happy birthday, and Ron saying happy birthday, and Ricky B saying happy birthday, and Wayne Meir, and Dave Martinez, and Armando Garcia. Oh, Armando says his birthday is March 16th. Next week. Linda Hudson saying happy birthday. Look at that. What a cool community, man. You guys rock. Ricky B said he hit 67 last Friday. Happy birthday to Ricky B. What is it with March? What's going on? And what was 9 months before March? Hold on a minute. Let me do the math on this one. Let's go forward 3 months. April, May, June. So July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. So sometime in July, a lot of people had nothing else better to do and made some babies. That's what I'm learning from this. March is Father's Day, babies. Well, now I know why it's called Father's Day. Which came first? That explains a lot. It's because of 4th of July? Okay. Got a lot of theories out there. Kelly Stewart says his birthday is next month. Well, you let us know, Kelly. We'll shout out a happy birthday to you when it's time. Marty says many babies. Yeah. It's something to do. Nebosha Baltic says, I am a June baby, so I don't fall under any theory. You and me both, brother. Well, happy birthday to all the March babies out there. James Prezi says his birthday is March 20th. Yeah, look at all these March babies. Am I a June baby as well? Yeah. I think birthday in June is great because, you get your holiday presents in December, and then 6 months later you get a birthday present. I think it would suck if your birthday was close on either side of the holiday, Christmas or Hanukkah. You're just presents, and then another 10, 11 months of nothing. So I like it's bookended nicely. Every 6 months, bring me presents. Ted Rollins says, I turned 67 this past Valentine's Day. Well, happy birthday, Ted. Aaron Werner says, my birthday is March 19th and I turn 29. To be 29 again and broke. No, wait a minute. That wasn't good. I don't want to be 29 again. I was really broke. Duncan, he says, I have a friend whose birthday is Christmas Day. Is your friend's name Jesus? Jesus? I don't even know anymore. When did it become politically incorrect? 20 years ago? Oops. Pike Man says he turned 42 on February 21st. Wow, look at all these birthdays. Wayne Pierce said he's had too many birthdays. Said no one ever. I don't know what the option of alternatives are. I don't want any more birthdays. Well, there's only one way to stop that from happening that I'm aware of. I'm told it's not pleasant. Kelly Stewart said, Carrie, my birthday is next to tax day. But I don't get anything. No, they take, don't they? Ross Quarter says 63 here last February. Rich says, hey, Carrie, how's it going? It's good, Rich. Welcome in. Marvin says he's going to be 76 on May 13th. Right on. And I expect you'll be gaming on your birthday. Adoptable Joshi says, I feel like the youngest person here. Well, if I felt you to see, that would be frowned upon. So we'll just take your word for it. All right, well, enough of that squirrel. Happy birthday to the members of our community that have these March birthdays, and good to see Marvin, and hopefully be seeing him tomorrow. And yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for today's show. Again, I can't extend enough gratitude over to the folks at Silverstone, specifically Tony. Tony's been helping me out for years over at Silverstone. He's a good guy, and he's always very patient. Sometimes it takes a while for me to get around to the videos, and maybe I'll see if I can make some time to do some short Amazon reviews on these for Amazon videos. The least I can do for their kindness. I have, like I say, the two builds I did videos on that I started. I have to finish those up. The cable management panels, pack them in boxes, and then go over to FedEx and get them shipped out. I need to do that. I need to ship them before the end of the week. And as long as I'm going live on Friday, it kind of closes me out to being able to make a live video and go to FedEx at the same time. So I have, according to my calculations, tonight, tomorrow, and Thursday to get those two machines wrapped up and out the door. And after that, I can start with some other projects that I've been waiting, just with bated breath, very bated breath, to bring you some other content. When am I going to be live on Amazon? I've not been doing much live on Amazon because there's not a lot of money in the live stuff. But what I have been doing is making short reviews for products. And if you're looking at a product at Amazon and you scroll down below the product information, if there's a video that a creator made about the product, you'll see it there. And because Amazon is filled with millions of products, most of them have no video. So this is a good time to get in because I can pick just about any product and I'll be the only one making a video on a lot of this So if somebody watches that video, and there's no like or dislike, there's no comment section, it doesn't matter if the video is 5 seconds long or 15 minutes or an hour, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the video even has any audio, it doesn't matter if the video is helpful. All it matters is if someone watches your video and then purchases the product that that video is showcasing, you make a commission on Amazon. And Amazon gets thousands of viewers to their product pages every minute of every day, 24/7. So I can make content to taste a hot sauce and react to it. And that can get 2,400 views in 10 days, resulting in way more money than YouTube would pay me for 2,400 views. And that helps people decide, does that seem like, well, I hope it helps me to decide, is that a product I want to purchase, right? Because I'm going to do my best to describe it. Some of the hot sauces, they're not for me. You know, they're just a mouth of pain. I'm not interested in that. But if you're looking for a mouth of pain, there you go, right? So it doesn't mean that they have to agree with my review. It just may help them to make a purchasing decision. As a result, because those videos stay in perpetuity as long as the product is available on Amazon, the more videos you make and the more views you get, the more money you make, and the videos can be much shorter. There's no measure of quality in the video. Like I said, there's no way for people to comment. There's no way for them to like it or dislike it. It either results in a sale or it doesn't. There's no minimum or maximum. Well, I think there's a 2-hour maximum amount of time. But shorter is better. It's also faster for me to create more content quicker. And you just keep stacking these videos one on top of the other, right? Just keep making more and more content. Cover this product, cover that product. And every week, cover a couple more products. And in a matter of a couple of years, there's going to be hundreds of products I've covered, each one generating a couple of bucks a month. Soon, probably making way more than I make on YouTube, from YouTube themselves, resulting in much bigger rewards for much less effort. I don't see any problem with that. But the Amazon Live stuff, just it's not the same as far as the money goes. And I'm not always just about the money, don't misunderstand me, but I am about trying to be the most effective. You know, if I'm going to put my effort in something, I want it to be as effective as possible. I don't want to tutor one person privately. I want to tutor thousands of people with a video I make one time, and people can watch it over and over. I could be dead, and they can still be learning from my video I made years earlier. I love that concept. It's just far more efficient. It also happens to be much more motivational financially, right? That you can continue to make royalties like a musician or like an author or an actor for work that you did prior. And while you know, in this case, we're only talking pennies or dollars. The bigger your library is, the pennies and dollars start to add up. And the only way you get to a library of over 1,000 videos, which is what I calculate I need to have, and then as a minimum, right? You just start with one. And then you make another one. And you make another one. You make another one. You make another one. If I made 3 videos a week, and these could be short videos, they could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, in and out, done. 3 videos a week. If I did that 50 weeks a year, let's say I took 2 weeks off, that's 150 videos a year. It's going to take me a couple of years to reach 1,000. But that's, to me, a bare minimum. And as long as you keep doing it, it's only getting bigger. It's like a snowball, right? I can't really control how fast that snowball's turning, but I can guarantee it is turning. And as it turns, it gets bigger. So then there's a matter of putting a little fire under it, you know, cranking out 10 videos a week, right? So my own success or failure is based on how much work I want to do. If I want to postpone the work, I postpone my own success. That's my choice. There's nobody to blame for it. And if I succeed, because I'm busting my butt putting these videos out, there's no one to blame for it. You know, it's on me to do that. And so by making YouTube videos, making some Amazon videos, still helping my clients locally with my local repair business and support calls that I get throughout the day, as well as doing the builds, as I've got a couple of builds going on here where I'm combining two worlds together, you know, the build and the video, or repair in the video. I love to combine things together because it's like double dipping. It's like getting paid twice, although the payment is really tiny. If I got paid a lot more, that would seem egregious to double dip. But when you're only making a couple of bucks and you can make just a couple more, suddenly that's more palatable, you know, for the work I'm doing. That is where I think the business model lies in this media space. And who knows, there could be new opportunities that exist from other companies as Amazon sort of sets the example. And there could be other media companies that in the future start up to compete against YouTube. I'm still waiting for that space to get filled by somebody. But for now, I'll just sort of work with what I have, hope for the best, swing for the fences, and if I fail, at least I don't wonder what would have happened if I had tried. And if I succeed, if I become financially free and I can, you know, get my place in Michigan and have my Tesla and, you know, look, I'm not a person that enjoys extravagance. I really don't. I was telling a friend of mine earlier today, I was laying in bed last night and I asked myself, if you could have any car you wanted right now, what car would you pick? Seriously, if you sincerely could go to any car that's available for sale today, right now, and whatever car you picked, that was the car you had. You couldn't change it out. That's the one. If it broke down all the time, that's on you. If it cost a lot to insure, that's on you. If it, you know, ate up gas and required expensive premium gas, you got to come up with that money. All right? So I'm not paying for the insurance. I'm not paying for the repairs. I'm not giving you a rental when it breaks down. But if you could have any car, what would you pick? And I get brain lock. There's like, I wouldn't pick anything. I'm like, I don't like, you know, having an Aston Martin or a Jaguar even in Phoenix where people routinely open their car doors right into your car and put dings and dents in it and they just drive away. It would make it very difficult to have anything nice. On the other hand, I wouldn't want anything old and ratty. I'd like something reliable that got decent gas mileage but was also fun to drive. But, you know, like a Tesla would be fun, but if it ever got into an accident, it could be months before it's repaired, and the insurance, I'm told, is very expensive on those cars. I wouldn't want a Mercedes. I don't think I'd want a daily driver of a Porsche or any Corvette or two-seater convertible. I feel like that's going to be a rough ride. That might be a fun weekend car. I don't know that I would enjoy it every day, or even on long road trips. It could probably get uncomfortable and noisy. So, you know, I'm like, all right, what does that leave? I don't want a pickup truck, and I really don't want an SUV. What would I buy? Maybe a nice Lexus. I've never owned a Lexus, but if I wanted something sporty, luxurious, and fun, you know, get one of the sportier Lexus. I'm told those are nice cars. I don't really care for any of the Infinitis. I don't really care for any of the Toyotas. I don't really care for any of the Nissans. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to answer the question because there's nothing I can see that just wouldn't be a middle-of-the-line car that I could just buy myself. I wouldn't need somebody to get it for me. So that's a problem. And if I could buy a mansion, I wouldn't want it. It's something you'd have to dust and clean. You got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bedrooms you got to clean. You know, the dusting and vacuuming. It's like living in a museum. I want a place that's cozy, you know. Not too big, not too small. I don't want a place that stands out. Like, oh, there's Carrie's house. You see that house that looks like it's from Dr. Seuss? I don't want that. Just a simple, you know, If it's any more than 3,000 square feet, that's way too big. 2,000 square feet, it's pretty good. Pretty good. So I don't have like expensive dreams. I just wouldn't be comfortable living that life. And it seems like it'd be a lot of work. I think I'm too lazy to live that kind of life. But no, I mean efficient. I'm too efficient. I don't want to have to keep repeating cleaning over and over and over. I already did it. Why do I have to keep doing this? It's a lot of dust, a lot of rooms. The more rooms you got, the more rooms you got to clean. It starts looking like a museum. Have you been to these mansions? They look like businesses. They look like hotels. They're cold. I don't want that. I want junk all over the floor, I want to look like if somebody lives there. So yeah, I have a hard time picking, putting myself in that situation. I don't know what I would buy for a car. I'm very happy with the Mustang. The Mustang is 9 years old. I've got just over 70,000 miles on it now. And it's never, ever needed a repair. So if I gave that car up and I got a new car, what if the new car has problems? And somebody else is driving around in my Mustang that I have taken care of, and they're having my car with no problems, and I got some new car, I have to keep taking it back to the shop. Now, I guess I could always, it'll cost money, but I could always trade the car in and get a different car. And if that car had problems, trade that one in. And every time I trade in a car, I'm losing money until I find one as reliable as what I already have. So why not just keep what you have? So at the end of the day, if I was told I could have any car, I'd say, why don't you take it? Because I don't need that headache. Take your mansion and all the maintenance that goes with that and keeping it up and running and maintained and cleaned and, all the sinks that get clogged and all the water heaters and all the air conditioners and all the landscaping. You have at that. Enjoy your fancy Mercedes, and every time you have to go to the gas pump and it's premium gas you got to put in it, and every time it needs an oil change, it's 2 to 3 times more than what it cost me to change the oil in the Mustang. You can have it. Thank you, but I insist you take that. I think that's where I'm at in life. I want something fun, reliable, and you can't have a Dodge Hellcat and at the same time think you're going to have cheap insurance and think you're going to have a car that isn't going to require a little massaging. It's a high performance car and they tend to need a little more care, and I don't want to spend that kind of time with it. And I also don't want to just have it as a joyride. I want to be able to take it to clients and use it in my daily needs. If I have to go to the doctor's appointment or a dentist appointment, or I have to go to a client's house or a client's place of business, that car needs to be reasonable to drive it. It can't be exerting all of my focus and concentration to keep it in a straight line because it's got so much power and I'm trying to hold it back, in the sea of cars, what is the roadways of Phoenix. And these Porsches and Corvettes are so low to the ground. There's so much road debris. There's so much stuff that comes out of the back of trucks that aren't secured. The problem I had with the Mini Cooper was all the stuff in the road. It bangs up against the air splitter in the front. It gets banged up underneath the car. Having a car with a little clearance so you can drive over some of the stuff, without damaging the car. You see a lot of pickup trucks and SUVs pretty raised here in Phoenix, and I understand why. Because you can go through the flooded streets when it rains. You can drive over road debris, and there's ladders and mattresses and chairs and furniture. I've seen all of it. I was driving behind a truck once, and he had one of those big, those portable heaters they have. They're gas-powered heaters. They have them at like restaurants for outdoor dining. The guy had one of those in the back of his truck, and it flew out. And luckily, I was following him at a distance because I was afraid it was going to fly out. And it did. It wasn't the freeway, though. And as soon as I saw it go into the air, I hit my horn and hit my brakes because I wanted the guy in the truck to know something just came out of your truck. I didn't know what it was, but it was big. and it flew into the street and it started coming towards my car, and I hadn't stopped. I slowed down because I wanted to see which way it was going to go. And then I drove around it, and the guy pulled over and I drove on. And I was going to take that car to a dealer to trade it in. And I thought, just my luck, right? As I'm taking this car to the dealer, and they've given me a price for the trade-in value, this is years ago, by the way, I thought, wouldn't that be just my luck that this thing flies out and smashes into the hood and the windshield, causing all this damage? Now the car's trade-in value is completely ruined. So thankfully, I sort of saw that and was like, oh, I think that's going to fly out of that truck. And it did. And I wish I could tell you that that was rare, but here in Phoenix, they just don't secure their loads. It's always on the news. I always tell people, secure your loads. They don't. And so there's furniture, and boy, one day I was on the freeway and all the traffic was like moving around, like they were all going like this. Well, something must be on the road. Sure enough, there appeared to be a safe the size of a Volkswagen just in the middle lane of the freeway. So, I called 911, and I'm sure I'm one of hundreds of callers of drivers who called. I can't imagine how they moved it. I mean, you'd have to get some heavy equipment out there to pick that safe up. Came out of the back of somebody's truck, and they just kept driving. That's the rule out here. This is like Mad Max out here. You break the law, and if something flies out of the back of your truck, don't stop and pick it up because you might get in trouble. So just keep driving. Apparently, it was worth you loading up in the truck. It was something that had value to you, that you wanted to move it. But if it flies out of the truck, we're not going back for it because we'll get in trouble. So just keep driving. And if it causes an accident behind you, just keep driving because you'll get in more trouble. Don't get in trouble. Keep driving. Now, whether that's because, well, I don't know why, but I can speculate as to all the reasons why somebody might do that, being so close to another country. But I don't know for sure what the logic is with that. But it is a routine. And so when you have a car like a Porsche or a Mini Cooper, or if you have one of these high performance cars that has the air splitter in the front that takes it really low to the ground, it's not going to be looking very good for very long if you drive it on the roads of Phoenix. Now, if I lived in the woods, if I lived in a small town, then I would love to have a nice car. And you can't have a nice car in Phoenix. Well, you can have it, but it won't stay nice. And if you have the kind of money where you don't care because you'll just trade it in and get another one, well, I just can't even imagine having that much money. It's, my dreams go as far as owning a nice car, not owning enough that, well, if it gets banged up, I'll just go buy another one. Wozniak said something like, don't worry if you get dings in your car, enjoy it. And I'm like, yeah, if you get dings in your car, you just trade it in and grab another one. What do? We have to live with it. We have to look at it. If I put the dings in my own car, that's acceptable. But when some stranger does it, no, not acceptable. So when I had my Chevy Blazer, that was, I had that car for 19 years. I didn't even notice if anybody scratched it, or I didn't even notice it. And in a way, by not caring, because the car was already sort of worn out, physically, the paint was faded. It had some battle scars from being on the Phoenix roads for almost 2 decades. That the last 10 years, maybe the last 13 years of owning it, it was like, this is the car that the more dents and scars it gets, the cooler it is. You know what I mean? It's got battle scars. But you don't want that little ding or that little scratch on your new Tesla. You don't want it on your Porsche. And you don't want that on your Mercedes or your BMW. And you probably wouldn't want it on your Chevy Cruze if it was brand new and you just paid for that, or you're making payments on it for the next 10 years. I would hope that, 10 years is sarcasm. I would hope that if anybody caused any harm to it, at least initially, it's you. Because those first scratches and those first dings are the worst ones. And after those, then it's like, well, it's easier from that point forward. But it's just an easier pill to swallow if you're the one who caused it. So there's something to be said about having a nice beater that's reliable. Oh yeah, shopping carts, yeah, all the time. Michael wants to know what I think of Intel not updating chipset drivers through the Intel driver update utility. Usually that's being provided through Windows Update these days. When you see optional updates, if there's any Intel drivers missing, you can get them through Windows Update, and then anything Windows Update installs that's outdated or doesn't install at all, then the chipset driver goes in and fills in that gap. As for the chipset drivers not being offered, as far as I know, they don't need to be. It would be redundant, assuming you're running Windows. But I don't know that the driver update utility works on anything but Windows. So because Windows Update's taking care of it, why would you need to get it from two places? It doesn't make any sense. I haven't verified what you're telling me is true, but I haven't seen a chipset driver update come through the Intel driver utility when I use it. I see like the Wi-Fi card I put in Marvin's computer. That was an Intel driver update on the Wi-Fi and on the Bluetooth. I see Intel driver updates on the integrated GPUs, on the CPUs. I see updates on BIOS updates for like the NUC and things like that come through Intel's driver update tool. But I'm also starting to see it coming through Windows Update on those BIOSes like we demonstrated. So if it's going to, as long as you're getting your updates and you don't have to guess, you don't have to like the old school way where you had to go to a website or download some third-party utility that wanted to charge you money, and then they would often install the wrong driver, and then your computer wouldn't boot anymore. It would randomly blue screen. I mean, drivers will wreak havoc on your system if you're not putting the right ones on. So it's a free utility. Intel doesn't have to offer it. So I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. I think it's fine the way it is. I'm just glad it exists. And I think complaining about it, look, if I offered a free utility and people complained about it, I'd say, okay, it's not free anymore. Now you got to pay for it. I think you have to pay to complain. And if you're not paying, you don't get the right to complain about something free. You have the option to not accept it and not participate. It's not forced upon you. If you don't like it, don't use it. But if you complain, and enough people complain that Intel says this isn't worth it, we're taking it down, then we all pay. So I hope you understand that when something is free, if you don't like it, don't use it. But the end result for many places, when they, and I can tell you, when I was growing up, it was a take it or leave it. And if it was left, it may not be offered again. So you can appreciate it and accept it for what it is. You can make a better one yourself. If you think you can do a better job than Intel, what's stopping you? I don't have any problems with computers having outdated chipset drivers. You know, these software utilities aren't perfect. I was fixing a network problem the other day, and the computers wouldn't see each other. In a peer-to-peer network, the shares wouldn't be seen. So the computer that was having trouble being seen had an Intel-based network card, and the Intel driver update and Windows Update said, there's no update, you're all current. But the driver was like 2 years old. I said, there's got to be a newer driver. So I Googled the make and model of the network card, which took me to Intel's website. And they have this, big driver package that covers a bunch of their network cards. And it was updated a couple of months ago, not 2 years ago. So I downloaded it, even though it said I didn't need it, and I installed it. And I checked, and my driver was replaced. I no longer had a 2-year-old driver. And now I had like a 6-month-old driver. And the network worked. And here's the thing. The internet worked the whole time. We only knew there was a problem when they wanted to share a folder between the two computers, and it wouldn't work. And I always tell people, if you've got your file sharing set up correctly, you've got all your right services on, and you've got your permissions set correctly, and it's just not showing up, you have either a bad cable or a bad switch or router, or the easiest thing is download your free driver Even if it's not being handed to you, go look for it, install it. In general, as long as you're putting the right driver on, it won't make anything worse. And in this case, and in many cases like this in the past I've dealt with, it fixes the networking problem. And it's not just Intel. I mean, it could be a Realtek driver. It could be any manufacturer. These driver updates don't come out because they have nothing else better to do. They're paying a developer to write code to address issues, and I don't know what all the issues are to all the drivers, to all the products over all the years. Forget about it. But I do know having the latest driver is extremely important when solving networking problems. And I know that if your computer's having sleep problems, like it's not waking up or hibernating correctly, that's often video drivers. Out-of-date video drivers can cause that. It can be caused by other drivers as well. And that's why I say, look, the whole hibernation thing is a stupid idea in my opinion, and just get rid of it. Unless you're on a laptop, you don't have to deal with this nonsense. But if you're insistent on chasing it down, the first thing you got to do is go through every driver on your system, every single one, and manually look for new ones. Don't rely on any automated tools, free or paid. You got to do it by hand and pull a driver from the manufacturer, install it, check your driver before, check the version, and then check it after. Make sure the version number is bigger and newer. And then try again and see if the problem still exists. And repeat until you go through every one of your drivers, starting with video. So when I see a new Intel video driver is out, and I use a lot of integrated graphics on Intel chips in my line of work, I always grab that driver. I don't care what it does. It gets installed because I don't want to find out what it does. I don't want my customers calling me in 3 months because they have a problem that's resolved with the newer driver. So I always put the drivers on that Intel Update offers for free when you see the little red dot on the system tray, not knowing what it fixes, but it fixes something. And it's hard to explain to customers how I have helped them avoid having problems. I explain to them that the work you're paying me to do is why you didn't have any problems. And it sounds like a sales line, right? It sounds like a pitch. But it's true. I put those BIOS updates in and I put those driver updates in because I don't know what they fix and I don't want to find out. And so my clients get them whether they need them or not, so that they'll never need them in the future. That's my philosophy. And they're free. I'm not going to pay a company to give me drivers. That's ridiculous. And they often give you the wrong ones and make a bad situation worse. And they hold no liability. So that's my advice on drivers. Jason Wyrick says he hates peer-to-peer. I love peer-to-peer. Oh, that's my bread and butter right there. I like to keep it simple, man. Keep it simple. And when simple doesn't work, it's like, wait a minute, this is simple. Why doesn't this work? And usually the fixes are relatively simple. Craig Casabona contributes $5. Says, hey, Kerry, the Intel 11700K processor is great. I built an ASUS H570 motherboard and an AMD 5700G with an ASRock B450 V2 motherboard. Thanks. Well, look at that. He's got Coke and Pepsi. He's got Dryers and Breyers ice cream. He's CPU agnostic. I love it. Kelly Stewart says, Kerry, you were talking about Teslas. YouTube has a channel called Wham Bam Tesla Cam, and they show what happens to Teslas. I'll check it out. So the driver updates, like I say, the only downside I see with the driver update tool is it doesn't necessarily recognize that there are newer driver updates available for the network cards that Intel makes. And I have found that to be the case more times than not. So even if let's just run this experiment right now, if you don't believe me. Look in your device manager and see if you have an Intel network interface card. And I'm talking specifically of a wired LAN, not the wireless. So if you have a wired Ethernet port on your motherboard built in, and that is Intel based, go in your device manager and look at the version of driver you have. And it's also going to give you the make and model of that network interface card. And then you open up Google and type in that make of network card, whatever it is. You don't have to type the word Intel because the model number is all it needs, whatever the model is, space driver, and hit enter in Google. So the model number and the word driver, 2 words. Then one of the top links that Google should offer you should be from Intel.com. Look at the blue links underneath the big line. There's a URL. It should be from Intel. Click on that and read what it says. Well, first of all, draw your eyes to a new driver version. It should be taking you to a page where new drivers or drivers exist for that card. But it may be a driver package that covers that card and 20 others. But take a look at the driver version number. And if that number is larger than what you have, you can also look at the date too to give you an idea. Then you would benefit from updating that driver. You just don't know how you would benefit if you're not having any problems. But by updating that driver later on when you want to network your computer, let's say you haven't done that yet, you likely will not have the problem you might have if you tried it now with the driver you have. It could solve problems that you won't have. That's been my experience. So unfortunately, the Intel driver updater tool doesn't tell you when your network card driver is necessarily out of date. It does a great job with Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Intel SSD firmware updates. If you have an Intel-based solid-state drive, it's great for recognizing that and updating it with the memory and storage tool. But yeah, for network interface cards, it's pretty useless. And if that's true about chipsets, I believe that to be true as well because that's being handled by Windows Update. But the network card driver isn't really being serviced by Windows Update or Intel automatically. You still have to manually go and do that yourself. So there you go. So I'm glad you asked the question because I've been meaning to talk about that for some time, especially since I just dealt with it the other day. And it's not the first time that a driver update has solved a networking problem. Even though, like I say, the computer worked on the internet just fine, it did not work on the LAN whatsoever. And I was baffled because, I set everything. It's a brand new computer. And peer-to-peer is simple. So it's got to be a simple fix, and it was. It's amazing how a fix can be simple if you just know what it is that you need to fix it. That's 75% of the work is just knowing what the work is that needs to be done. Doing the work is kind of a formality at that point. But it won't cost you anything but a few moments of your time. And I bet you there's a lot of you who have outdated network card drivers. And probably don't even know it because you just haven't, whatever that updated network driver is doing hasn't impacted you yet. Which then would require you to do what I did and deal with solving a problem that the updated driver fixes. But if you already had the updated driver, you would never have that problem. It's a hard sell, but it's true. Armando Garcia says, I got to run. Happy birthday to Marty again and to all the March babies. Uncle Kerry, don't forget to check your PayPal. Love y'all and good night. Thank you, Armando. I can check PayPal right now. My email was pretty empty there of any new messages when I checked it a minute ago. There it is. Elite Enterprises sent $10. Same Armando Garcia that was in the chat, Uncle Kerry. And the other Armando Garcia wrote to me and said, Uncle Kerry, thanks for reading my email. People need to know what this community means to so many of us. It meant so much to be in the chat when you read my email. Okay, well, I guess he was in the chat, but it's a different, we have two Armando Garcias in the chat. That's awesome. I'm glad you were able to be with us live when I read your email. That's cool, and thank you for sending it. It means a lot to me. It really does. That's going to wrap it up for me for tonight. Thanks you guys again for hanging out with me. I'll look forward to seeing Marvin tomorrow and getting his gaming monster computer out to him. It's not a monster. It's pretty heavy, but it's very well made. The case is very well made, and I think we've got some good quality components that are going to last for a very long time with zero maintenance. It'll just work. And if that turns out not to be true, well, Marvin, you give me a call and I'll make it right. And if that happens, I'll put it back up on the bench and I'll share that update with all of you. I promise. We can all learn from it. So I honestly think it'll be just like all my other builds, and I very rarely, as you've witnessed here, I very rarely ever get them back for repairs. I'm very proud of that, and it's why I select the parts I select. It's not just price-based. I'm not the guy you call when you want the cheapest computer made. I'm the guy you call when you want the best computer for the money, that it's going to be fast, it's going to be quiet, it's going to be reliable, and it's not going to break your bank. But it's definitely not the cheapest one. And it bothers me when people call me and say, can you build me a computer for $400? No, I cannot. I don't want to support that. And I don't want you to think that's the kind of stuff I build. I can build you a computer for about under $800, and it'll last you 8 to 10 years, statistically speaking. But no, if you want the bottom of the barrel stuff, go to Best Buy, go to those places and buy a disposable computer. The computers I build, they're not disposable. You can upgrade them, you can repair them, you can even do that yourself. You don't have to bring it back to me. There's no proprietary parts. It's serviceable by anybody who's willing and capable. And I'm very proud of that. So it's not an apples to apples. It's a bad example. It's not an oranges to oranges comparison, comparing what I build to what Dell makes. They're two very different things. So I'm very proud of that. All right, and Armando again with a $2 contribution. Thanks again, and thanks for all of the support. Planet Cryos, thank you for your generous contribution, and to Madi and to Marvin for sharing his experience with us so that we can learn from it and be aware of it, know what to watch out for. And everybody else who has contributed gift cards or even just contributed kindness. Thank you to my friends in blue who help keep it civil in the chat when we have people in there looking to stir it. Thank you. And those of you who are not yet blue, just keep participating in the chat room and showing your kindness as I start to see you and become familiar with you. And I go, wow, I've seen this guy in the chat room for, a few weeks now, and he's been nothing but kind, or she. I'm going to turn you blue. It's not a matter of, financial contribution. It's just a matter of making yourself present, so I can see you. If you're just watching and you don't participate, I have no idea you're watching. And if you don't participate, even if I turned you blue, there'd be no way for you to know until you chat. So I hope that people will come in and, at the very least, just come in and say hello. Even if you're shy, there's no reason not to. You won't be bothering anybody, and nobody's going to harass you. The only thing you're going to get in return is a hello, how are you at the most. And I hope that maybe that establishes some form of connection with somebody that you'll get to look forward to talking to in other chats that I have in other videos. It tickles me when I see people lining up in the chat. They get in there and they queue up in there, and the video may not start for hours, and they're already having a conversation with one another, like they know each other personally. Hey, how are you? How things been? I love that. I'll go in there sometimes when I'm getting things set up, in the studio, and I just check on the chat room and I see these conversations. I love it. So I'd love for you to be a part of that if you're not already. Stealth Mode for the $5 contribution. He says, thank you, Uncle Kerry and crew. Thank you, Stealth Mode. And thanks everybody else for watching. I'm going to see you all again very, very soon. Hopefully, I'll be back tomorrow. We'll see what time permits. And if not, definitely Thursday. I'm looking for an outro. We'll do this one. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Until then, bye for now.